Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to episode 45 of Some Random. I am your host, Sriracha Flash. With me today, the beautiful, the wonderful, the ever younger by the day, I swear to God, Super Joe Monday. Joe, how's it going?
Hey, I'm tired. This is going to be a grueling week for me. And also, it's a Tuesday, and as we all know, Tuesdays are suffering. Things are going about as well as they can be. I got my drink right here. I'm good to go.
Perfect. I actually just finished mine. We found a pack of like Arnold Palmer iced teas, like the alcoholic ones, for super marked
Oh
down
yeah,
because the cans were dented. So I was like, well, I can't turn these down at the grocery store. I've got my drink. I'm ready to go. I'm super excited to have you here today, sir. I've been looking forward
happy
to
to
this
be
one.
here.
Thank you, thank you. I've since the induction of this show, there've been a couple guests where I'm like, I hope I get a decent enough following or good enough where I can be like, I want Joe on the show, A4 Andre I want on the show, which are both happening this week, which is awesome.
Yeah, he'd be a good person to talk to for sure.
I'm excited about it. I started drafting his questions and then I got sidetracked, so I have to get back and finish those before Thursday. But yeah, you were one of the guests that I was super excited to have on the show, man. So thank you for taking the time out of the day to do this with me. Um, but yeah, with that said, let's get this thing started. Joe, why don't you tell the people who the hell are you?
Hi, I'm Joe Monday. I'm Joe Monday. I'm the head mod of our Street Fighter. That's my dog in the background, if you can hear him. That means my wife just came home, so that's exciting. She's been like little. You know, I'm supposed to talk about Joe Monday right now, but let's talk about Joe's wife right now because she's home and been like super busy. Here's the thing about her is that oh wow, he's going off right now.
Hybrid.
He's so excited. Maybe it isn't my wife. Maybe there's marauders.
Oh, well, this is going to be the most famous podcast ever if you die on air, so just...
Man, it's just like ridiculous. He was super quiet before all of this, and then something just set him off. I imagine it could be because my wife is not home. Because now is like her super busy season. So she like last night she got home at like midnight. She was at work until midnight. So if you think that I work hard, there's a wife behind me who's working doubly as hard as I do. In my mind, I'm like I am envious of maybe not envious of her work ethic, but like I am impressed by her constantly. But no, I'm Joe. I do Street Fighter stuff. That's I'm I don't know. I don't know. I'm in the back. I'm there. I'm just around. I'm not out there with like my stuff trying to promote my own stuff because it's so much easier to promote other people's stuff, which is really what I like using that platform of our Street Fighter for. And hopefully that's like what I've achieved so far. Hopefully, I don't know. I'm very bad at like calculating my own metric of success here. So that's that's
Well,
me.
I mean, I think you've done a really good job with like promoting within the Reddit Street Fighter account. I think you've done a really good job. You say that you're in the background and around, but you're a pretty prominent figure at this point. I think just about anyone in the Street Fighter scene now, whether or not they're following your personal account, Super Joe Monday, on Twitter, or the Reddit account, I'm pretty sure everyone just about knows who you are. Or at least has had some inkling or run-in with you or the account, be it positive or negative. But I think you're more prominent than you think you are. Your name precedes you because when I had first started joining the online local, you were brought up as one of the people like, if you want to do an online tournament, this is the way to go. And that actually brought me to the RSF account in the first place. And I've been playing these for a little over a year now. And that's because your reputation precedes you very well. Oh, words. I might have too
I
many
think
Arnold
the
Palmers.
tournament is kind of like that is kind of its own thing. I guess we should talk about that too. Is that it's the longest running, largest online fighting game tournament that there is. I think it's all of those things. Weekly, online weekly that there is. There is, there are larger online tournaments that have happened, but there are no larger weeklies than our own. Which, to me, it's always like that really fucks up my perspective in a lot of ways. Where I don't know, because you see a whole lot of stuff online, on social media, even on our Street Fighter, of people being like, Street Fighter 5 is a bad game, but then I look at online tournament stuff, and it's like people show up every week to play this game competitively online. In fact, the most people do that every week. So like, am I missing something? Is this bad? Am I doing a bad here? I don't know. I feel like I'm constantly gaslighting myself with that. But yeah, the tournament is awesome. I love running the tournament. I love highlighting players' skills that don't really get highlighted that often, or like names that you don't see, because we all know like the big names and they're prominent within the community, but there's so many good players from so many smaller communities that just don't have the opportunity to get that airtime, you know?
Yeah, 100%. And there are a lot of people. I think a lot of people have been born into prominence because of the tournament. Mike Too Strong being among them. I know he does super well with streaming, and he's a Warlord player, so like a lot of people have run into him. But the highlights that you guys have created and that he's performed on the show, whether he's trying to put out a highlight performance instead of win sometimes, is a separate fact. But
he's an entertainer. I appreciate that about him for sure.
Yeah, he does an outstanding job in doing that. But I think you're selling yourself a little bit short, because the East Coast online local, with your presence, and I know Nogaremi in the past before he had moved, but now with Pizza is Good, Thomas Winkley, and I know you guys had Black Ace on yesterday. I think that's his name, right? Black Ace.
No, hold on.
God,
why am I blanking on this? Sure, let's go with that. And the Body Boy.
Yeah, and Body Boy, yeah. Listen, I love you guys. Remember that, please. I appreciate the nice things you said during my match yesterday, so just know that I love you. But no, so you guys have done a really good job, because I know the West Coast scene gets some attention, but the East Coast local explodes because you make it a point to highlight every player that comes out. You make it a point to curate the clips that come through and put them out and highlight them. And I think you do a very good job of promoting it. I think that's why the East Coast scene gets a little bit more love than, like, let's say the West Coast or the EU scenes. Although Kamikaze and Cross Moon do very, very well.
Yeah, I kind of don't want to disparage Kamikaze's work, because you also have to realize that he's doing that. He's running the West Coast tournament from the East Coast, which, having done that in the past, is like it's a fucking nightmare world that I am not envious of, but I'm super happy that he does it.
Yeah, I don't mean to disparage Kami.
No, and like you're super not. So, by the way, Shadow Ace, not I I went down that Black Ace path with you, but Shadow Ace is that dude's name on commentary last night. Regardless, that's kind of a little aside. However, when you take into account like all the work that is done, I think it all just fits together. There's so much tournament every week that run by people who are like willing to show up is the big one. That I don't know. That's awesome to me.
Yeah.
But,
yeah, and like I said, no disparagement to either one of those guys. I was just merely trying to tell you that you're doing an awesome job. And that
I appreciate that.
I think you've done very well. But I'm actually, before I get into the other stuff, now that we're talking about it, I do want to, because you had brought it up, I want to skip into some of the questions that I had for you specifically before we get to the general ones. So
sure.
With the Reddit account, you've done a really good job of highlighting and promoting players. Generally people that tag you on Twitter, at RedditSF, and they try to get their stuff out there. How much of a curation process do you have before going, well, I'm not putting this out into the world? Like, I'm happy that you tagged, but, like, this doesn't go out. Or...
So that is something that I've learned over the years, that I have to be more cognizant of what I hit that retweet button on. Because my first instinct, which is honestly gets me into trouble more often than well, not more often than not. I actually trust my gut instinct on this, of saying that regardless of whoever steps up to the plate, if they throw something out there, because that account is in a position of, like, it has a platform, I think there's a responsibility there to share that platform and make it as available to as many people as possible. So, to me, my instinct is, yep, right out the door, go right ahead, you can promote whatever the fuck you want. But then sometimes you get in a situation where people are, I'm not going to name names, but people are trying to tag us in videos what show them reacting to shootings at events on a monetized video, let's say.
Oh, good
And
lord.
without looking at it and just hitting the retweet, which is, what you do. Sometimes you got to go back and say, let's undo that retweet, and then let's also have a talking to with that person, that second part is also very important that I try to do whenever I have the time and also the wherewithal to be like, hey, this shit wasn't good, which I also want to say this out loud for everyone that is listening or anyone who follows that account or anyone who follows the stuff that our Street Fighter does. But if you do see anything ever that is like by some pretty nefarious, there's maybe some nefarious background to it, or like there's some shitty people behind what's going on, or maybe I'm not wise to it, call me out on it, please. Like I this is like unfortunate to say, but I don't have the time to vet everything that is coming in versus the amount of stuff that I feel like I should be sharing with everybody. So if there's like one person who's like, oh, this is a bad dude who's like, this is saying some bad shit here, you probably should check up on that. I will 100% follow through, and I'm open to hearing anybody out if bad things are shared. So like, please do not be afraid to be like, hey, what you did here was shitty. And I'd be like, whoa, okay, yeah, no, you're right, actually. So just want to throw that out there.
Yeah, that's important, and I'm happy that you put that out there for people, because I feel like sometimes people feel like they can't tell people in a position of prominence like yours, like, hey, this is wrong, and feel like they're being listened to, and I'm happy that you put that out there, because I think it's important to let people know that your voice does matter, and it is important. If you see something nefarious or shady, don't be afraid to bring it up. It helps with, curation a lot, because like you said, there's not enough time in the day to go through every single thing that people send you. You're a very busy man with a full-time job on top of doing everything else. So, yeah. Please, y'all.
Yeah, that's the other end of it, is that like I've got a job and a life and other stuff that goes on outside of this, so that like any amount of like people with boots on the ground noticing something, saying hey, or reporting something on our Street Fighter is for us to look at, because that stuff does get surfaced to us for us to go, oh, okay, yeah, no, this is something worth looking into, and culling that from what is presentable in front of the community. So please, this is an open door. I have an open door policy at my office. Please step inside.
Well, all right. I appreciate the honesty on it. I won't press you on it anymore. I mean, there's not really much to press on it anymore, but I appreciate the honesty about it being open. But with that, let's bring some levity, and let's switch back over to what people want to know about you. Mr. Joe Munday, I have to know, what got you into fighting games in the first place? What sent you down this dark path of hanging out with us heathens?
I blame Samurai Showdown 2 and Book It. So if anybody is from America and remembers the Book It program, which is actually still around, I don't know in what capacity the Book It program is still around, but it was this thing where you can read like a number of books from a selected reading list, and your teacher would say, here's a bunch of stickers for you, and you would get enough stickers, and then you would take that stickers to a Pizza Hut, and you would get a free personal pan pizza. Now I'm thinking, I get that pan pizza, that's delicious. Bonus, there's a Samurai Showdown 2 cabinet, and this game is beautiful. There's this little stool for me to stand up on because I'm like a child, and just the way that it moved and like the sounds of it, and I was just so drawn into it. And I fucking love pizza, and I learned to love reading because that's how I got the pizza, and that's how I got the fighting games. So I blame Sam Show 2 and pizza. Mostly pizza.
Mostly pizza. The Book It program, that takes... Oh my god, that unlocked a door in my brain that I haven't thought about in a long time. The Book It program, that's nationwide.
But like, is it still a thing? You have a child. Is that still a thing?
For neither one of our kids, I don't think they've done it. They have, well, because we live in a small town and we have like I don't want to say like an impoverished school, but like our school district is pretty fucking poor.
Right.
But like, so we don't have a lot of programs like that. We have like independent programs within the school who are like, if you read this many books, then you get access to the school store, and you can get like a pen or something that has the school's like logo on it, or a shirt if you read so many books in a year and stuff like that. But and then they have like AR testing. I don't know if they had AR testing for you, where you would read a book, take a test on it, and then the score that you got was how many points you got, and you could turn in those points for erasers or school supplies.
We actually had that, but we had to do it for like to pass the grade. Like they wouldn't let us. We had to do like 4 a year, 4 AR tests, and if we didn't do 4 within I think it was a semester, they'd be like, nah, you failed this semester, which doesn't, in retrospect, doesn't really make sense. And like in my mind, they have no way to actually police, so fuck them.
Yeah.
But no, I remember that.
Yeah, the AR programs were weird. So what I was gonna say with the Book It program, when I was a kid, we had that. Because you and I are about the same age. So the problem was, I grew up in Ithaca, Michigan, which to this day I think has a population of less than 2,000 people in like a 40-mile radius. And so we would get these Pizza Hut like coupons or whatever, but the closest Pizza Hut was 45 minutes away by highway. So we never got to turn in these fucking Pizza Hut things, like ever. We never got to use those fuckers. And so I think to this day my grandma still has them like in her little like I'm proud of Joey book that she has. They're just tucked away back there. Like, good job, like you did it.
Those are no longer valid for sure.
No, those are way past expiration. That's just something she whips out, and she's like, "Look, Joey, you remember when you used to read?" And I was like, "Yeah, Grandma, but now I'm in the fighting game community, and no one reads. Reading's for nerds."
Nobody read. Don't read. Also, the more you read, the worse you are at fighting games. But yeah, I just imagine you taking those to a Pizza Hut now and be like, see, I read the Encyclopedia Brown. It says so right here. Solve that mystery. I read them Goosebumps. Give me that pizza. Give me that yum yum pizza.
I'm going to need the Pizzone now, please and thank you.
Yeah.
I would be
Insert the Pizzone. I read a Babysitter's Club. Please give me your Pizzone now, please.
Encyclopedia Brown. All right. Fucking, sorry guys. This is fuck fighting games. This is a reading program from when we were kids.
Mystery novels.
Yeah, mystery novels were the shit when I was a kid, but Encyclopedia Brown like taught me how to make like hot Asian mustard in the back of one of their books. There's a fucking recipe in there for like, and Encyclopedia Brown had an Asian friend, and this is what they ate. And it had like a recipe of Asian foods, which is like trying to be inclusive for kids. But it was like, Asian mustard is like a little bit of water and regular mustard and some of your parents' spices that you find in the cupboard. And so I would make that shit all the time and be like, this is awesome. Like, oh, I'm so cultured at like 7 years old, not knowing what the fuck was happening with my life.
Yeah, you're just grinding pepper into a soupy mustard, being like, I have culture.
No, that's exactly what happened. I was like, oh.
Is this culture?
Yeah, is this culture? Mom, I'm a man of the people. Like, I'm just... fucking kids are so stupid. I was so dumb. So dumb. But yeah, fucking read, kids, except, don't read. Reading's bad.
Yeah, be selective about the information that you're taking in, please.
Oh my god. So yeah, Sam Show 2. Good game. Good game. No, that's awesome. I didn't realize that. See, when I was like a Mr. R Street Fighter, I assumed that Street Fighter was going to be the one on the list. Like, yeah, that's what got me into fighting games. That's why I still interact with this community. But no, Sam Show 2 specifically.
Well, the first fighting game that I owned in my home was Street Fighter 2. Hyper Fighting 2 Dash, whatever the one came out for the Super Nintendo, whatever that one was.
Okay.
It's got a fucked up name.
Yeah.
Because it's like specific for, like, there were so many fucking versions of that game, and each release had a different name for each console. So like the one for Sega was different. Also, don't play the one for Sega. But I had that one for the SNES, and that was my first Street Fighter game, and that game got my ass beat in that game many times by my older brother. But still, you keep coming back, man.
Every time.
Shit's good.
Every time, yeah. So I found it. Street Fighter 2 Turbo Hyper Fighting on the SNES.
Okay.
Fucking garbage ass title. But that was the game that I had played. Like one of the first fighting games I played besides Mortal Kombat. So we share a little bit of history there. But I remember playing with my uncle. My parents had me really young. My mom it was like 8 days after her 15th birthday when she had me. So
okay.
Yeah, so when I was growing up, all my uncles were like 18 and 19 when I was like 4 and 5. So they were into video games. And so I just played like fighting games with them, and they just beat my ass at like Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter 2 Turbo Hyper Fighting, whatever the hell, and like the TMNT Genesis game. And so yeah, I got that beat into me.
Well, are you talking about like Turtles in Time? What are we talking about?
No. So and that's another one that has like 3 separate things. So Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Tournament Fighting or Tournament Fighters.
Okay. Yeah, no, I know what you're talking about now.
Yeah, and that one was on the Sega Genesis, but a different version of the same game was on SNES that had different characters and a different fighting style and like art and everything. And then there was a third version on the NES that had like the alligator that like shot fireballs, and like there was an actual fighting game on the Nintendo system. And like 3 versions of the same game. They're all very wild.
That was a weird era of games and having different ports that are effectively different games. What a time to be alive.
Oh my god, the Disney Capcom games like Aladdin and Lion King, vastly different on like what system you had.
Yeah. Remember when like those games were good?
Oh,
like those were like premier titles that like have staying value within culture.
That was a big deal, man. Like, and everyone had played those games. Everyone had come across had rented them or put hands on them some way, and it was weird. It was weird to see like I don't think we'll see a game made by Capcom or Konami that's a tie-in game like that anymore. They all have their own independent studios, or they like contract smaller studios for their games.
Nah, like Konami is too busy running like health bars and pachinko parlors. They're not going to make video games anymore. That's not what they do.
They're fucking too busy holding up Silent Hill and breaking my fucking heart every day. It is awful.
Terrible stuff.
I know. It kills.
But no, like it's funny that you bring up that your uncles got you into, or at least like played games with you, because it was my uncle who got me that version of SNES. I feel like when I was because I was a lot younger at the time, and like when I got into games, like in general, like I believe that I was a baby when I first started playing games, and I know that because the first like system that we had, my grandpa bought it because my grandpa on my mother's side, he was just like, I want the kids to love me, so I have this at my house, and they'll play this while they're here because I'm everyone's favorite grandpa. And like I remember playing like a Sesame Street game on that. That is like my first memory of gaming. Is like Sesame Street 1, 2, 3 ABC. I don't know. You could be Space Grover, and that was cool.
Fucking perfect game. Fucking 10 out of 10.
It's like Number Cruncher, but bad, but not good.
As we delve more and more into your history, I'm convinced that you're just the better looking, smarter version of me.
No, you're making me blush now, please.
No, I'm 100% serious because my grandparents had bought the NES system because they wanted their kids to hang out at home, and they wanted their grandkids to come over and play video games. And so to keep my dad and my aunts and uncles home, they just bought more video games and played video games with us and them.
Same trick, same dirty trick.
Yeah,
dirty grandmas
God
out
damn it,
there.
what in the hell?
I know that shit works, those motherfuckers.
They're so smart. They're so fucking smart. I've told this story before, but I'll just say it again really quick. My grandpa got my grandma for their like 30th wedding anniversary the Donkey Kong Country 64 console that was like see-through green with a see-through green controller, and like that's what he got her for their anniversary. So that way she could play it, but also so that way she could get the kids to come over and play it. And so like that's what we fucking did. Man, fucking grandparents are the best. Good folks.
Yeah, when your love is cemented over the DK rap, that's how you know it's for real.
Until like a couple years ago, I didn't realize that people liked that song like ironically, because I was like, no, that song's good.
It's not. It's bad. It's bad. I can't even like. I love to love things ironically. I can't even do that with the DK rap. It is nonsense. It is a nonsense song that shouldn't exist.
In retrospect, I think now I only liked it because they said, like, Donkey Kong's one hell of a guy, and I was like, whoa, a Nintendo game said a swear, and, like...
It's a curse word.
Oh, my God. I must have been, like, 10 at the time, and I was like, this is the future. Like, Mario's gonna start killing people. This is a path to destruction. Nintendo. This is bad times. All right, well,
dear.
I'm happy that, listen, the Elmo answer my next question was your first video game. So we'll just gloss right over that one. Y'all already got the answer. Y'all need to fucking know anymore. But I do want to dig into more about...
Yeah, I'm sorry. I read ahead on this test. I apologize. I got the cheat sheet right here, so I did jump ahead. And I imagine I will get Dr. Grade for that.
No, that's okay. Look, I'm not going to put it on your permanent record, but just know that I'm thinking about putting red marks on the future records.
Fair enough.
But to delve back into more Joe Munday, fuck video games. Where does the name Joe Munday come from? Because for some astute listeners might not know, that's not your real name.
That's my name. That's my name. That's the lore. The thing is, that actually is my name. Like that. There's levels to this.
Okay.
Of the first real name is like the government name is Ian, but the middle name is Joe. So I go by Joe.
Oh, okay.
My dad, because like my dad goes by his middle name too. I don't know. Maybe our family's just weird. Like his real name is Alan, but he goes by Dean.
Oh, Dean's a strong name though. I can't.
I mean, yeah. Obviously, you go with Dean over Alan. Like clearly, obviously, like yes, of course, I get it. Like, but I don't know. I don't know. I go by Joe. So the friends who know me just call me Joe, and that's my name.
I wasn't trying to out your government name, but I appreciate the honesty.
That's fine.
You're not weird. A couple guys that I go to bird camp with and go hunting every October. Fucking Buford might have to help me on this because it's his family. But like 3 or 4 of the members' middle names are Eugene, so they just all go by Eugene. So we just call like 4 different guys Eugene, and they all answer every single time that you say Eugene. So it's a good time. Like no worries, your family's not weird. You're not alone in this.
That somewhat reminds me of... So I have family in West Virginia, my mother's side. And everyone on that side of the family goes by a nickname. None of them go by their actual name. So they're like... They've got their gamer tags, but IRL, right?
Uh-huh.
So my Uncle Butch, this was, I want to say... At the time that this story happens, he was probably in like the 4th or 5th grade. And he lived like right over the hill from school, so he could run home if he wanted to. And it was the first day of the 4th or 5th grade, and like right after he gets to school, he comes home running down the hill. He's crying, and his mom's home. And she's like, "Well, Butch, what? Why are you crying?" And he kind of had like a lisp at the time, so he's like, "The teacher, she's called me names," and she's like, "Well, Butch, what was she calling? That's absurd. Why would a teacher call you names?" He's like, "I don't know why she's calling me names." What was she calling you? What names was your teacher? I'm angry now. I'm going to call the school and tell them to stop calling my kid. What did she call you? She called me Arthur. And my Uncle Butch didn't know. He didn't know his real name. He didn't know that his name was Arthur. And it made him cry that the teacher insisted that his real name was Arthur. Uncle Butch is a good guy. He's hilarious. I got a lot of good Uncle Butch stories, but that's West Virginia for you. So cheers.
Oh my God, Nevin, I love Uncle Butch already. I feel for the kid.
He's a fucking character, man. He's awesome.
Oh my God.
He's the kind of guy who has love tattooed across one fist and hate tattooed across the other. That's Uncle Butch for you. That is true. That is not like a fake thing to describe him. That he has that.
I love. Can we get an RSF radio podcast with Uncle Butch? Can we make this happen?
That would be a real fucked up episode.
I don't care.
I'll be honest.
Let it be the last episode before you sign off from RSF forever. Just like, this is Uncle Butch. I'm handing over the keys to someone else. Y'all can let this thing burn. I don't give a shit.
It's his show now.
It's
take the wheel.
Show now. Oh my God, that's incredible. I love Uncle Butch. Oh my gosh, I love him already. What a great guy.
Yeah, fighting games. We were talking about. Where were we talking about? What the fuck were we talking about? Oh, name stuff. Yes,
name
my
stuff.
name. So
Yeah,
Joe Monday is
there we
just
go.
my name.
Yeah. Oh, perfect. All right, love it. Joe Monday. Yeah, I don't know. Joe Monday's good. I appreciate when people go by stuff like that when it's like first name, last name, especially when it's like succinct and snappy. Like those are always like good names. Like I know we've talked about this before, but like Dadman's name, my good friend Ryan Hacker. I love Dadman. I'm a sucker for good names. Joe Monday, Dadman, Sriracha Flash, all good names. Good people, I'm sure. That's just how I pat myself on the back.
Dadman is a good name. I agree with that for sure.
On to the next one. So, because I want to get to know more about Joe, what is the most surprising thing about you that some people wouldn't know or wouldn't expect to come out of you?
I don't think a lot of people know what I do in my day job. Or, I don't know, I guess there's not a lot of people who know this, but for my career, I blow up bridges for a living. Not in like a terrorist way, but in like a this bridge needs to go kind of way. So I know a lot about explosives and demolition and stuff like that. So if you ask me anything about demolition, I know a lot about
How
that.
accurate is the Semtex in Metal Gear Solid 2 for blowing up a tanker?
Is completely, that is not any explosive in any kind of thing, that what blows up the stuff is pretty much a fabrication. Like it's that's not how that shit works.
God damn it, Hideo. I knew I've been fucking lied to my whole life.
But also, I've only ever used C4 once in my career, and it went half okay. Which is not a sentence that you want to say in the demolitions world. But
no,
sure.
It's not. But I'm not gonna let you just be like, it went half okay. Leave it at that. What the fuck happened where C4 went okay at best?
Well, it went half okay. So the situation was we were demoing an old steel mill, and there's these big heaters that. Where they basically like the kilns, right? And
yeah.
they gotta make it super hot in there, so these structures are fucking huge chunks of metal, right?
Yep.
And so we're prepping this stuff, and the legs that it's standing on 6 huge what was the radius? It was about 3-foot radius of cast iron. And the thickness of the iron was like 2.5 inches, which is like some pretty beefy stuff holding up this really huge, like enormous structure. It's huge. So what we had to do, and our idea was, because they're circles, you have to make a shape charge behind the circle to make that cut through it. But to ensure that it wouldn't get locked up, we backed each panel with some C4 to give it a little bit of propulsion, so that once the cut was made from the initial blast, the secondary blast of C4 would propel that panel forward and give it somewhere to go, and let it kind of so it doesn't hang up, and then we have to go back in there with a giant structure that's just crippled, which is not what you want to do. You don't want to blow something up and then have to go stand under it while it's still standing. That's not what you want to do, which is what happened that day. Which is to say that my butthole got 2 times smaller that day, having to go like up underneath this gigantic structure that we've been kind of cutting and chipping away at, and then being like, well, we did blow it up earlier, and the other one went down, but this one didn't, and if we did it the same, so let's investigate as carefully as possible, and then get this thing down by the end of it. And then we just doubled up the explosives and pushed it was a safe enough area. We had like enough control of the area where there was no danger of having there was not like people near this thing. So, which is actually like always a huge issue when it comes to blowing shit up, especially like in cities and shit. Don't go near explosives, people. Shit will fucking fly. It is. How do I? All right, so the thing about explosives can I talk about explosives for a little bit longer?
Yeah,
do we have time in the show for that?
Please go ahead. I have no heart out, so if you've got all fucking night, go right ahead.
Okay. So the main do we care about how explosives function when shit gets shot.
Hell yeah, I do.
Okay, so the main misconception is people are like, if you blow it up, you just stick the explosive on, and it goes boom, which is not actually what's happening. Yes, there's an explosion, but the explosion is a shape charge that's put behind. They put the explosive material behind a strip of copper, and that explosive accelerates the copper through the steel. And you size out the explosive to the size of the copper based on the thickness of the steel that you're shooting it through. And you like to do that through straight lines. So effectively, you're creating a really big gun on either side of the steel, what shoots copper towards itself to like cut the steel like snips, right? It doesn't go boom, it's more of a cut. So when you're looking at an explosion, you're like looking at who knows where that copper could fly to once it hits the steel. I mean, we can control it with like, you build like safety boxes around it to try to prevent copper from flying through it, but you're putting a huge fucking explosive charge behind a little bit of copper that is flying like super fucking fast through this steel where if it escapes that box or flies anywhere towards you, like, it's still gonna maintain its speed. It's a fucking big ass chunk of metal that could like fucking, that shit's real. Like, be behind something. If you're gonna be near an explosive, be behind something is what I recommend.
Oh my God in heaven.
Shit's dangerous.
Yeah, fucking shit sounds dangerous. I'm not gonna say I have a lot of experience with explosives, but like, as someone who's watched a lot of like building demolitions in my career of like watching football shit, and like every time an old stadium gets torn down, I'm like, have to know how they do this, like a stadium demolition. I've never understood how until now. So thank you. This was all a fucking ruse for me to figure out how explosions work. I had fucking tricked you into coming in here so I could be like, so that's how the Silver Dome went down, and now I know, and I could tell all my friends that fucking copper was shot through and then things went down and deflated. I'm geeked right now.
There's like a ton of prep work in something like that. You just locate the members what are holding up the structure, know exactly where you need to cut it, which is like essentially my job in figuring out, what you need to, how much you need to cut it with, and where you want to place those charges, all that shit. And then like going out there doing it is like, things in the field can get a little bit hairy. So there's this one time. Can I tell another story?
Yeah,
are you okay with that?
Absolutely.
So there was another time where we were on a project where a huge bridge, an enormous, like up at the top was like, it was about 100 to 120 feet off the ground. And the only way to access that steel, because there was nothing else around it, is from a man basket, or what you could call as a aerial lift, which is basically just like kind of the size of, it's like it's like the size of a bathroom stall that fits like two people, and it's a working platform that you can raise yourself up and work, right? So we're going through, I'm up there with another laborer who's actually a little bit younger than me, and we're like talking, having a good time, and marking out beams and placing stuff on beams what need to be cut. And we're just kind of going through working, and on this bridge though, there's a peregrine falcon on the other end of the bridge. This is a long bridge too, so like we're like, when we start the work, we know by the end of the week we're going to get to the other end of the bridge, and we're going to have to deal with this peregrine falcon, because if you don't know, a peregrine falcon that's a protected animal. That's a protected bird. Like it is a federal, like you go to federal ass prison if you try to harm this bird. And it became like a huge issue because it had a nest that had eggs in it. And we had to be sure that the eggs had hatched and that the birds were out of the nest before we blew up the bridge what the nest was. So a week goes on, and we're working our way through the bridge, and we're like, comes Friday, and we're like, all right, going up on span 11. All right, here we go. Like, we're gonna have to deal with that fucking bird. And like the guy who's younger than me, like he had, like I I don't know. I've like been around animals my whole life, so I'm like not that concerned. But he's like this like a skittish kind of person who like he was nervous, and I could tell that he was nervous the whole week. And before we go up though, the superintendent on the job, he stops by. He's like, "You going up on span 11?" We're like, "Yeah, that's where the bird is." He hands us a rake and says, "Whatever happens, don't tell me." I'm like, okay, that's how we're doing it now. I've got this rake for protection, and we've got to go and do our work now. So up we go. We're going up. About this span was one of the higher ones, so we're up at 120 feet, and the falcon it starts going around. It starts circling, and it's a fast bird too. So it's like on the other side of the bridge. It's like, did it go? Where is it? Is it over there now? I'm like, I've got my eyes on it. Just keep going up, Nick. I've got eyes on the falcon. Just keep going up towards that beam. We're like slowly making our way up because the higher you go on a man lift, the slower it moves for safety purposes. So we're like inching our way towards this beam. We're like, where's the bird? And then like almost as soon as we reach the beam, because I lost sight of it, I look over and then the bay across from us, which is about 25 feet, it's just perched and staring at us. And as soon as I catch eyes with it, and I'm like, Nick, as soon as I say Nick, and he looks over to it, it guns it right for our hard hats. So what I imagine this next part from, I don't see it from the position that I was in, which was being crushed by Nick, who was, we're working inside of the bathroom stall here. Like, there's not a lot of space. How I envision this scenario is the other men who are working on the ground, grown-ass men on the ground, like manly men who are working men on the ground, looking up at us, two dandy-ass men just like flailing a rake very limp-wristedly at this peregrine falcon, going, get the bird! The bird's coming for your hat! Just, son of, get on my neck! I got the rake! Can't with the net! It just... like, that's how I see it, of two grown-ass men in the air just being like, oh no, this bird. And we were, like, I was keeping it, like, at the end of the rake, being like, go away. And eventually, like, chilled out enough for us to do the work, but that whole time, it was like pins and needles the whole time, like, is it gonna dive bomb us again? It's the world's fastest predator, so who can say when it's gonna come at you? I don't know. It's a killer bird, man.
Holy shit! Oh,
we did not have to kill the bird, but I can't tell you of which the gratification I had of writing up an official to the state. I had to submit a falcon harassment plan in the event that the falcons hadn't flown out of the nest. That involved like fire hoses and just spraying that falcon. I was like, come on, falcon, you stay in that nest. You stay in that nest, motherfucker. It's payback time. It's got a harassment plan right here. It's got a stamp on it and everything.
I've been waiting for this motherfucker. Oh, my God in heaven. Oh,
that's my falcon
hurts.
Harassment story.
That might be the best story we've ever had on this show. My stomach hurts.
Anyway.
I'm sorry, everyone. My stomach hurts. So, at first, like, when this first started, I was, like, gonna make some shitty analogy to the Mothman. Because I don't know how much you know about the Mothman.
I know about the prophecies. Because I have family in West Virginia, they're like
the
super
Silver Bridge.
Mothman. Oh, yeah, they're like, they believe in that shit.
Yeah, so, alright, well...
And I might too, but who can say?
Well, listen, I'm gonna tell you, there might be some random podcast host who may or may not believe in that fucking thing. Shit's weird out there, y'all. But yeah, at first I was like, is this gonna be like the Silver Bridge thing where like the peregrine falcon was actually the Mothman and like that preceded disaster and like was Nick never heard from again? Like, how's this story gonna end? No.
No, we were just thoroughly embarrassed by a bird the size of a football, honestly. So its body is the size of a football. Its wingspan is larger than that. People, come on.
Yeah, come on, you guys, get rid of it. I have to imagine that you guys. Have you ever seen Revenge of the Nerds? Like with the fucking javelin that they throw, it's all like limp wristed.
The wiggly javelin to
yeah,
work
I
with his
imagine
body
that's how
structure.
the rake was at 120 feet in the air. That's how I'm seeing it, like just wiggly in the fucking sky as this bird
Oh yeah,
is like.
that is exactly how I see it. It is as pitiful as you could imagine.
What was his name? Lamar in Revenge of the Nerds. That's how I imagine, like, two grown men waving this rake around 120 feet in the air as the bird is just, like, gently caressing, like, around the outside of you guys and not diving behind you the way you think it is.
That's accurate.
Oh
anyway,
my God.
Fighting games.
Yeah, fighting games. Sorry, guys. Sorry, but this is way off the fucking rails. Who gives a shit about this show anymore? I don't. Oh my God.
That derailment was on my. I take credit for that.
Listen,
Sorry, folks.
That is exactly the kind of story that I've wanted for this show every single time that I bring someone on. Because as much as I love and appreciate fighting games, this story is really about getting the background on people who are involved in fighting games. So those kind of stories.
There's a ton of fascinating people in the community that definitely. I don't know. It's like you can always find like weird spotlights on people who've got their own weirdness to them. You know, everyone's are your own brand of weird, and I think that the FGC can highlight that.
Yeah, no, 100%. That's when I brought like Yango on, who's been in the RSF weekly a couple times. When I brought him on, he like studied in France and like learned languages and like learned Japanese and French over there. We just had a whole bunch of people on that I'm like, I would have never known this about you had I never like brought this up on the show. But let's bring it around to fighting games for just a second then, I guess. So I suppose. How did you get involved with our Street Fighter in the first place?
Oh, so this must have been, gosh, now 6-ish years ago, I want to say, where I don't know, I had a little bit of free time on my hands and just wanted to, like, really dive in headfirst into fighting games and get into, like, the nitty-gritty of how these things work. And at the time, when it was... Because it wasn't our Street Fighter back then, it was RSF4. It was just Street Fighter 4. And just what I ended up doing was doing these weekly character discussions where I would specifically write them from the perspective of how do you beat this character? What is good about them? What is good about their normals? Like, at what range do you want to try and stand? Or if this is where they're standing, what kind of... what can you expect? What is like most likely to happen at this range? Because this is what makes them strong at this range. So what would you try to do if this was, or if you had any other character, if like you had other kinds of tools? But it was mostly just character discussions like that. And then Soul Synapse hit me up and he was like, "Hey, our mod team is a little thin right now in terms of active members. We see you posting a lot of content. Do you want to come on and as a moderator?" And I was like, "Well, I don't know. Sure, I guess. Whatever." That was kind of like glibly like, "Sure, fine." That will ingrain me into... I have a bad habit where I just say yes to everything. Again, bring it up from earlier on in the show. Just, yeah, sure, go ahead. Like, fine, fuck it, yeah. So I was like, yeah, fine, fuck it, totally. And then what ended up it was like, Taco back in the day was like, "Hey, I'm going to do these, like, weekly online... They weren't even tournaments back then. It was just, like, online lobbies. And then after that, it was like, well, now... I guess there's enough people interested where we can run a tournament." And then like we were running 2 tournaments like side by side, and then he kind of quit out, so then it was just me running tournaments. And then people on the West Coast were like, "Hey, I want a tournament too." So it's like I ran the East Coast tournament and then the West Coast tournament, and this was all while still doing those write-ups. So if people are looking forward into the future of when we switched over to our Street Fighter and Geef's Gym, it kind of came through doing these like daily... Well, we actually had like daily questions where people would come and ask like general questions, and it got to the point where people would be like, "These are stupid questions. We should have answers to this stuff." And I'm like, yeah, we should have like de facto answers to how could I do a combo this way, or how do I do a DP, or like dumb... I don't want to say dumb shit, but like just like the simple questions that happens like super often of like how I keep doing low forward fireball, but a DP comes out. And then I was like, you know what, let's just answer all this stuff like as granularly as possible. And I actually started all that stuff before Street Fighter V came out, and it was just intended to build into like a repository for information that, you know, just people ask those questions all the time. So here's the answer for you. Just point them to this answer. Here's the chapter you can point. It wasn't chapters at that point. It was just here's the lesson you can point to. So then it kind of just led into that, and then turned into a thing where people were like, "Hey, this is a lot of work. Can I pay you for this?" And I was like, "Nah, don't do that. I don't need your money. I'm liquid. I'm good. I blow up bridges for a living. Fuck you." But I understand the desire to support something that has helped you, and that element of support helps drive community togetherness. It helps like being. But like someone who buys the book is part of something bigger because that money effectively goes towards more fighting game stuff. Like the reinvestment into the community is more because of the support that book has gotten, like player sponsorships and all that shit. Kind of that all ties together. But in long story short, all of the mod team, what had been around when I started, is now long gone, and it was. I've seen all that turnover, and the cheese stands alone, I suppose. I'm kind of the last man standing on that team. And I mean, there are like new mods that have come around, but it's just like, I don't know, you see people come and go throughout the years, and see a lot of faces swing by every now and then, and it's I don't know. That's the part about the FGC that kind of makes me sad, is all the people who just like aren't around anymore for whatever reason. Either they've worked themselves out of it, or different life stuff comes up, or they're just not, they don't have the spirit of Marvel has died in them, something like that. But then you see them like come back every now and then, and it just puts a smile on my face. But anyway, that's kind of where my experience with our Street Fighter began, and not necessarily brings us up to the present time, but like that's a brief history of our Street Fighter and RSF4.
Oh, all right. Well, I didn't know the original lore behind Joe Monday becoming the now Super Joe Monday that he is. So I'm happy that I know it now. Yeah. I don't want to.
The wild thing is that I've gone back to look at those lessons because people still ask about Street Fighter 4, and I'll still point people to those lessons. But the unfortunate part is, and this is just like this weird, like Internet Archive thing where it's kind of a bummer in that when I would explain things of like, Dudley can use his stand hard kick at this range, like, and this is how he can utilize it in this matchup. It has a hitbox, like watch how Smug uses stand hard kick in this matchup at the range that he's using it in, and it would link to a video that's timestamped to how that particular move was used. Just for example, because I specifically remember going back and looking at this Dudley one, and it was a Smug against Bonchan, Sagat. I can't remember what tournament it was, but just the range that he was using stand hard kick, I was like, this is perfect. He's totally shutting down this note, like he's shutting him down. But I hit that link, and it's like video no longer exists, and that's like half of the videos that I ended up linking were like they no longer exist, and it's like, damn man, there's that many people have like come and gone. Like that's wild to me, and like kind of sad, but so it goes, I suppose.
Yeah, that's actually something that I experienced really recently that made me extremely sad. When I had Wireman on last week, he brought up the Funding Nemo story, which I don't know if you know that story. TLDR, someone was talking a bunch of mad shit to Nemo about Marvel vs. Capcom 3, challenged him to a first to 20 money match. Nemo flew to the United States, won the money match 20-5, got his money, which I think was at the time was like $1,000 for a first to 20, and then flew back home. The video no longer exists. It was someone's like shaky cam on their YouTube of Nemo versus Fnatic in Marvel vs. Capcom 3, and their account is just deleted. So that video is gone forever. We no longer have record of this 20-5 beating and this awesome story. All we have is like verbal history and memes about it now. And that makes me really sad that we don't have those things.
That honestly really sucks. And I will say there's one person, at least that I know of, who's trying to combat that, which is Esteban Martinez. The whole Back to Block documentary series. He's going through and like kind of trying to catalog the history of fighting games, and not just Street Fighter, just like all that shit. He's trying to get it all in, and he does a crack up job. And I trust his work, and it's really phenomenal work. He used to do work with Danny O'Dwyer with No Clip, and it's phenomenal work, and that no one else is doing, and I appreciate the hell out of it. But
yeah, I remember when you had Esteban on RSF Radio, and that was a really good episode. Yeah, it's super, super good. I actually followed Hold Back to Block because of that. It was my first time hearing about it. But yeah, he does excellent work. So please, if you're out there, anyone listening, Hold Back to Block on Twitter and YouTube. Follow him. Help him document the stories of the FGC. And support his Patreon. Please and thank you. Support good content. Super important. Not unlike this show. Which is great content. Thank you very much. I know you asked. All right, so I wanted to jump to the future of RSF, but I kind of want to talk about the present really quick. So you've been doing these online locals for a while now, and you've seen, like you said, you've seen a lot of people come and go, and you've seen a lot of talent come through. I know we've had Rob TV enter a couple online locals and stuff like that, and Mike Too Strong, and Neon, and Rushdown, and all the names that we have today. So I just try to keep it topical for today. But so people know who the fuck I'm talking about. But when you're watching the online local, how easy is it for you to scout someone and go, that person isn't just like not used, like how easy is that person to go, oh, that person's going to be great offline too? Like how easy is it for you at this point to go, that person's a great player compared to this person does really well in online events?
The thing is about this question is that there is an answer to this. I just don't know if I have the vocabulary to describe it, because it is one of those things where as soon as I see it, as soon as I see someone doing the things that a strong player does, I know it immediately. It is something that you can notice and know in your heart of hearts versus a player who doesn't know. So like some of the telltale signs I want to say are what is their decision-making skills, right? Like when they are doing combos, are they finishing stuff in ways that will lead to more Oki? And are they making reads on what their opponent will do next based on what they have been doing? And it might not be something that your brain will pick up in the moment, even if you're commentating on it like we do every week, but just something that you'll pick up and think about, like after it'll hit you, it'll sit with you. Like for example, because I play Zangief so often, that's a fucking lie. Because I play Zangief, period. I can watch Mike play and have a very good sense of what he's trying to do, because I know at which point he has control over his opponent. In that, whenever Mike has control of people, and this is specific to Zangief, is that they'll end up walking backwards more often. They'll end up jumping more often, and they'll end up doing stuff that is not ideal for them in that situation, but they're doing something out of like a fight or flight reaction, right? He's getting a reaction out of people that is like prehistoric, right? It is their lizard brain speaking through their character, and you can see it when it's happening to other people. And this actually specifically is not for Mike, because you can actually see this in other people. Of they're doing something so automatically that they're not actually thinking about this thing that is killing them. They're doing this thing that is killing themselves, but they don't know it, and they're not going to be able to escape that part of their brain in this set whatsoever. The set is over. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's over. Like, I see Rushdown do this a lot. Of he knows exactly what his opponent wants to do, and that allows him enough space to do whatever the fuck he wants, because at that point, the brain is gone. Their brain is out of the matchup. And it's in those moments where I notice that, oh, this person like has an idea of where their character has like specifically what spaces and at what times they have the advantage, and specifically against their opponent where they can create advantage. Like, do they throw out big normals and then walk backwards? If that's the case, I'm gonna dash forward now. I'm gonna dash forward and then throw out a big fucking button because you're gonna panic in that moment because you don't have a plan. You're just throwing out a big normal and walking backwards. But I've noticed that, and because you don't have a plan, your lizard brain's gonna speak up and I'm gonna kill you for it. Like, which is hard to say and commentate out loud as it's happening. It's hard to even notice while it's happening, but it's one of those things in retrospect you can go back and look at and say, oh, obviously this is what happened here.
Right. This was the turning point where someone took control of the match. Everyone has a plan until they get punched in the mouth, as the old
Mike Tyson.
Yeah, Mike Tyson. Oh, fucking... Nah, I'm not going to get into that. Nah, we're not going to talk Mike Tyson. Okay. Just... Nope. Nah, not going to do it. All right, anyways, fuck Mike Tyson. But yeah, no. I fought Mike and I fought Rushdown in the online local, and everything that you say is 100% true. Even people, I don't want to say even people, like they're lesser, but I've felt that come across in various players. Yucky Germs is another one who's very, very good. I think Yizzy, is it Yizzy? Why is Yizzy? Why? Yizzy's another one. Both Karen players who, like, halfway into a round went, oh, okay, I have this. And to the point where they're controlling a match and pushing the pace to where they want the match to take place. And I have to react and go, I don't want to be here. I don't want this situation to happen. But they're forcing the situation. And it's very, very scary. It makes me feel like I have never touched a controller before sometimes. But that's because they're good players. And they're very, very instinctual. And it's good to see people like Rushdown, who I think got 5th at the Red Bull Conquest event in Florida, do very, very well. And to see Mike, who had done really well at Frosty Faustings last year and continually does well across all events that he goes to, and be notorious amongst people going, fuck, I gotta fight Mike, this Zangief player, even when Zangief was low tier.
Like Chris CCH has done phenomenally well.
Yeah, Chris CCH is another one. Another super young kid. I think him and Cross Moon are the same age, now that I'm thinking about it. But yeah, fucking super young kid who done very well.
I didn't know Cross Moon was that young. That's wild.
Oh, all right. I didn't mean to spill secrets. Whoopsie daisies.
I don't know if that's a secret. It's just because I'm always surprised with how young Chris CCH is.
Oh.
I'm gonna do a little bit of forward reading, but there might have been a question here about moments and things with our Street Fighter and stuff like that kind of. Things that I remember about the community and the players, but specifically with Chris CCH. Two stories about him. The first one is probably one of my favorite moments in... Actually, yeah, fuck it. This is the favorite FGC story. We're just going into that. Yeah. Sorry, I'm taking the wheel now.
That's okay. That's okay. You go right ahead.
I've seen the map. We're breezing right through Indiana. We're just dropping right into this story. So it was was it 2 years ago? So this was not 1918. So Evo 2018. When I go to Evo, that is a great opportunity for me to go and cheer on everyone who I'm familiar with, either through the tournaments or through online. Just these players that might not have a cheering section for themselves. Maybe they're by themselves or they're who can say? But I'm gonna show up for that. I love doing that, to say I might have seen you enter this tournament, but I'm gonna try and show up. And I get fucking exhausted at Evo just from running. Like, my notes for every Evo is like, be here at 6, be here at 8, be here at like 8:30. Like, here's where you kind of want to check in on this bracket, and then having to run from side to side, being like, are you playing your match yet? And like, hi, I'm Joe Munday. You haven't met me yet, but I'm here to cheer you on. Anyway, regardless, 2018, Chris CCH is playing, and he's getting into top 64. It is his match to get into top 64 against Momi, I believe. and I'm standing there, and it's looking. He's getting in a way where he's like, he's about to win. Like you can, he's in a position where he's up around. He's already won a match, and like, it looks like he's got it. So I'm cheering. He wins the round, and I'm like, hell yeah, you're my boy, Chris. Like, just yelling and cheering for him. And as I say that, there's this older guy standing next to me, and he goes, you know Chris? I'm like, yeah, Chris. He's a great player. I'm actually his. That's actually my boy. I'm his dad. And I'm like, oh shit! Like it's phenomenal to meet you. Like that's great. You should be really proud of him. Your son's phenomenal. Like this kid is amazing. Like at such a young age too. Like it's really great to see you support him like that. And he's like, yeah. It's fun to show up to these events and cheer for him. And by the time that he had said that, Chris had like just won the round, or like was about to win. And as Chris is about to win, his dad leans over and he goes, oh, like, I gotta run. Don't tell Chris that I was here. Which then throws me through a fucking loop, because now I'm like, wait a minute. I need to, like, congratulate Chris on his win, but then also be like, oh, your dad wasn't here to cheer you on. This is a very, like, touching, heartfelt moment. Like, I don't know exactly what the relationship between you and your dad are like. Way to go, Chris! Like, you're the fucking best, man. It's fucking awesome. And then me having to be like finding out of that conversation, but at the same time be like, fuck yeah, man, you made top 64. Like, I'm hyped for you right now. But also like trying to hold back. Like, I have emotions. So many of them.
They're the introverted version of like Long Island Joe and his dad. Like, they're just like, we love each other,
but like I had to feel all of that and hold it, and I was like, I am not prepared for any of this. Later on, I talked to Chris later. I'm like, hey, like, what's your relationship with you? He's like, oh yeah, like I heard about that. I was like, oh okay, thank God. And I was like, oh, like, tell you. And then once Chris had told his dad about that story, Chris's dad actually contacted me through Twitter. Was like, oh my gosh, if I knew that it was you, I would have shook your hand. Like, I would have actually stayed and talked to you, because we had sponsored Chris in the past, and like he knew that.
Right.
So he's like, oh my god, if I knew that, like, we could have. I'm like, oh, don't worry, I was just, you put me in a way, dude. Come on, man. So that moment, that one really stands out. Anytime that anyone from that has kind of passed through our Street Fighter, or anyone who's been involved with that succeeds or does well or anything like that, is just, to me, like, is like so special to me to see others succeed when given the opportunity. And that's probably my favorite moment. But after that, talking about Chris's age, that year or the next year, it was in a situation where Gutex was running a bar fights, and yeah, that was the year prior. So it was like, Gutex was running bar fights, and he's like, hey, make a team for our Street Fight. I'm like, oh, cool. I'll get like all these guys from the past and who we were currently sponsoring. We'll get them on stage. They'll do a exhibition match. It'll be fun. And in that, like, just in passing, I'm like, yo, Chris, like, we've sponsored you in the past. I'd probably get you in for free. Just like, let me know and we'll get you in. He's like, nah, that's a bar, I can't get in. I'm like, no, it's 18 plus. You can get in if you're 18. He's like, I can't get in. And I'm like, you're a child. Fucking child. Like, you're still a child. Like, still 17. This fucking kid. He's going to be a fucking threat. Trust me on that one.
Oh, I have seen Chris CCH do damage. I can't wait to see that kid, like, turn into what he's going to be in the future. I think he's going to do excellent work.
I will be, whatever he ends up doing, I will be extremely proud of him.
Yeah, I fucking, best wishes to him. He was playing Sakura the last time I saw, and then, was it Sakura? Sakura was he playing? I don't know.
That was his main chicken, like, way back when, and like getting back into Sakura, and like, because that guy was a little, I don't know, that guy took a couple nerfs, and then Chris was like, let's kind of bounce off of that, and then he did really well at fucking Shit, where did he do really well with Sakura? God, there's so many tournaments. It's really hard to lose the thread on that, but he did. He performed extremely well, and I don't know, super proud of him. Sakura in top 8. That's good shit.
Definitely. And
this was before she got like the buffs of this season. This was back then.
Right. I was just gonna say, and Nauman just won Evo Japan. Newman?
Yeah.
Nauman. So like Sakura's are coming out of the woodwork all of a sudden.
Yeah, she's gonna be a threat.
Yeah, I can't wait. I can't wait for everyone to be like, oh, she's actually good, and she's been good. And Space Boys hopefully gets a lot of credit for all the work that he's been doing with her for years now, or at least a year now.
Space Boy.
Yeah, Space Boy. I love Space Boy. He's fucking wild though. Him and Shinku.
He's entertaining.
He can fuck off as far as I'm concerned. Every time I run into the local, I'm like, all right, no fucking Sakura, here we go, and every single time, fucking right in my face. God damn it. But yeah, so I guess with that, with the coming of age question, what does the future hold for you in our Street Fighter? I know you've previously talked about you thought about canceling the RSF radio because it takes up a lot of time in your life, and breaking up the commentary blocks, because doing a 4-hour commentary block on a tournament is exhausting, and no one can blame you for that. So with the future coming forward and people like Cross Moon who are coming up, I don't think Cross Moon's even a fucking adult yet, but I think he's like 17. But when these people coming up, like, what does the future hold for you and for the R Street Fighter program?
This is something that I know that I am historically bad at, and it's making plans. I'm not good at making plans. I'm bad at calendar. My wife knows this. Everyone who knows me knows this, that I am pretty listless when it comes to having direction. But with that said, though, it's one of those things that it's in my mind of, I can't just do this. There has to be change. There has to be forward movement, forward progress. Because there are so many people that could very easily fill the position of running the tournament, or doing a radio show if they want to, or having you've guest hosted an episode of RSF Radio in the past, and having a week off was oh man, it opens up a lot of extra time, especially right now. But that's the thing about my job currently, is that I'm working a job that's 12-hour shifts that running it. Listen, man, I know I alluded to the suffering of what is Mondays earlier, but what is Tuesdays, but yesterday was a fucking trip of doing the 12-hour workday, getting home and immediately recording that episode of RSF Radio with Fluffy Sheep about his latest netcode mod, and then immediately hopping into the tournament, and then not finishing that until midnight. Was I woke up at 5 and worked until midnight. And there's a part of me that's I can't and shouldn't do that. That shouldn't be my life. And granted, these 12-hour work days aren't going to be forever, so I have to plan for that future as well. But with that said, though, I've kind of let myself lax on RSF Radio just because it has been so consistent with every week, where if it doesn't come out on Thursday now, I'm not as dedicated to that as I once was, because I want to get good episodes and I want to get good guests, and I want to have time for them to have time to think about what they might want to say. Which, I don't know, honestly, a lot of people don't even look at the notes anyway, so it's that whole show is just all ad-lib, just like this show, if you believe it. But the thing that, I don't know what's in the future. I know that what I want to do is, I will eventually pass this stuff on. I've got all the key, because here's the lore behind all this shit, is that I didn't make any of the R Street Fighter account things what exists today. I didn't make hardly any. The Twitch account, didn't make that. That was handed over from someone to me. The Twitter account was not made by me. All that shit that we deal with through sponsorship stuff was not originally created by me. So all of that stuff is I'm already working with secondhand goods. It makes sense at some point. Like, I have the ability to hand the keys over. I just need to eventually do it. When that will be, I'm not ready to do that now. There's still time, but I feel like the 2021 season and just seeing where things at. So I feel like this is going to be a tough year. It's going to be a weird year for the FGC because there's still a lot of really bad actors that have continued to exist in the community. That there's going to be, it's going to get weird, and especially this being, I don't want to get like hyper political, but it's a election year. There will be seeds of change, or there won't be, which will actually be kind of a fucking nightmare, and things could get worse. The future is unknowable in that sense, but what I want to do and what I think that I've set up, at least and to continue doing in the future, is having a platform that can promote people and voices that otherwise won't get promoted, and that's the goal, because I feel like there's going to be a lot of that in 2020. Like, for example, there's a whole amateur league sponsored by Super League that there's no fucking information out there. I'm on a mission to interview everyone who is running a tournament in the Street Fighter League Amateur League. It is a thing that like is already running. There's shit happening in that just there is no global coverage on what the fuck that even is, and there are like really solid players, really solid communities, and really great tournament experiences being hosted by a number over a dozen of, I have a list somewhere of all of the tournament organizers, because nowhere else is there a fucking list, and finding any information on it is fucking impossible. And it's one of those things where I feel like the support of because that shit is grassroots, but where else have you heard about it? Like, where are you seeing this shit? Even like Capcom Fighters isn't even retweeting this shit. And I love Carolyn, she does a great fucking job, but like the support she's one person, and the support isn't there for all of grassroots efforts. Like, what do I need to do to utilize the platform that we have to promote those ventures? I don't know if I have the answer for that yet, but that's the roundabout goal. I don't know. Those are lofty dreams, I suppose, with not a whole lot of concrete answers, but we'll get there, I assume.
Hey, like you said, the future's unknowable. So, when I wrote this question down, I was like, I don't expect an answer out of Joe, because I think it's... When I wrote the question down, I immediately went, this is unfair, but I'm curious. So I had to ask.
Fuck you.
I know. So I expected no concrete answer. But I know for me, I can see the 18th hole on my FGC career. I know when the end is, and I know when that time is going to stop. And it might not be in the too far distant future for me, but for you, while you might be not able to see the 18th hole, or where things are going, I was just curious as to like, what will you be doing moving on? Because you are separate from our Street Fighter. You are an entirely separate person. I think a lot of people forget about sometimes that, like, Super Joe Munday, the person, is also a competitor who fought Itobashi Zangief on stream like a wild man. And who also has like dreams and goals and aspirations that are outside of fighting games. So that's really all I was curious about.
That's like the thing, though, is that I think that's the part that is, to me, a little bit... Again, I know this is like a character flaw of mine, is that I don't necessarily have goals or aspirations. I really am just well, let's see what happens. And if this is good, let's roll with it. If this is bad, then we'll have to dunk it. And I feel like that lack of planning, especially right now, might end up fucking me later on. But again, like I don't know yet. maybe the answers will manifest. I'm sure there will be an end of running our Street Fighter for me. But at the same time, you say that the Joe Monday character is separate from the R Street Fighter character, but I like to feel like I've made that line as like blurred as possible, in that like I'm not I here's my other bad habit, is that I am really good at preventing self-promotion, of knowing exactly how to self-promote something and doing the exact opposite of that thing to spite myself. I don't know why I do that, but I consistently do it, and my wife hates me for it. Every time I do some shit like that that's like self-deprecating, she's like, no, don't do that. Like,
Stop sabotaging yourself, Joe. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, but like I don't know. There's a certain amount of like self-subterfuge that is enticing to me. Maybe that's how I imagine I will personally go out in a blaze of glory that will eventually involve a peregrine falcon and some explosives. But until that day, I don't know what will come of this scene. But again, like, I don't know what's going to happen. 2020 is going to be a fucked up year, and I'm kind of not looking forward to it, because it is already. Here's like the other dark secret, is that the stuff that gets reported on our Street Fighter that is like very clearly bad, and thankfully there are people who make those reports. But there's a lot of stuff that gets like auto-modded out that we then have to manually check over to make sure is like either good for, like, got caught in the filter by accident, or we need to cut it from the sub. But the shit, like some of the shit that we see is really fucked up. And there's a part of me that knows that contingent of people is the FGC. Although you will see many figureheads, the most popular people in the community say, that's not the FG. That's just online. That's not these people. But no, to me, that's not true. Like, that just ain't it. The people who are like truly nefarious, truly like hurtful to minority groups of people, is like, those people are real, and they exist, and they will do their best to make sure that the fighting game community looks like them. And that to me is like, they're militant about it. So there needs to be an equal force pushing back in the other direction. And it's just like, to deny that it's there, to me, is like insulting.
Yeah.
And it's ignoring a problem that it's going to fester. And having the most popular people and the most visible people within the community just say that, nah, that shit ain't real, is like, I don't know, fuck you, man, you're not real. Like, you're not real.
Yeah.
Like, because you don't live in reality. You're living in a separate reality that is completely separate from this thing that everyone else has to live through. But for you, there's like, I don't know, fucking filters and shit.
Right.
Shit is unfiltered for every person that's out there.
This will be my apples and oranges comparison. But it's my right as an American to remain steadfast in my beliefs, regardless of the facts or information put in front of me. So therefore, the same people who will denounce that's just online, that doesn't count, are the same people who will go, this online community is necessary in order to keep games alive. So it's either you get to have an online community that keeps games alive, but within that community are these people that you also call, they're just online, that doesn't happen offline. Those people are keeping some games afloat and alive, and they shake hands a lot, you guys.
Yep.
And I talked about this on the episode with Morgan Foggy on here. I believe it was Morgan.
She's phenomenal, by the way. She like one of the smartest persons I've ever talked to.
Yeah, I immediately when I had her on, I was like, oh, I am in the presence of someone that is smarter than me.
Like very clearly,
Yeah,
you have not seen the caliber of this show before.
yeah. You
Uh-oh.
are you sure you were all right with what you agreed to be on? Because like then I had Master Who on, who's also a member of Yace, and we were talking about like the different personalities of Yace, and immediately with Morgan we went, she has a powerful aura around her. Immediately, that's like she's in command of every situation that she's in, and it's very accurate. But while we were talking about the responsibility of top players and prominent players in the scene. And what I kept on saying, responsibility, like, you know, whether or not you like it, when you become prominent in a scene, you more or less have, and I'll use her wording from now on because it's much smarter and better than mine, an opportunity to teach and grow and help people who are look up to you and look to you because you do well at tournaments. Whether or not you wanted that opportunity thrust upon you is besides the point because you now have that opportunity because you have been doing well, you've promoted yourself well, so when you have a following and you say things like X game is dead, X game is trash because I hate this, and then you just shit on a game or you shit on a community, those same people that follow you because they respect you for whatever tournament placements or anything else, they tend to follow that and they tend to fester that. You know, games like Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite get shit on by so many people because of its looks and everything else, regardless of how it plays or its netcode, which were both great, minus the looks. But because that game gets dogged on by people that are higher up in the community, it dies out quickly. Street Fighter V gets dogged on by people like F-Champ and everything else. Those same people whose entire personality is, I hate Street Fighter V because someone told me to. And it just happens. Like, it's a thing.
I mean, it's a little bit more complex than that because
Yeah.
of how the games are, but that's a very broad brush to paint responsibility, I suppose, in terms of how people carry their influence.
Yeah. That's why I
But
said Morgan
ultimately,
was much smarter than me and used the words opportunity. I think opportunity is a much better word than responsibility.
sure, there's an opportunity there.
Yeah.
There's. I won't get into it. There's a good example. People know my stance on Mike Ross and that whole situation, but it's just every time I see that name come up, it's like, all right, you care more about the person than you do the community and your own attachment to it.
Yes.
Like, I've had this like weird thing on my mind lately. It's like, I actually didn't plan on talking about this because this is like pretty fresh. Although this is like a reoccurring theme in my brain space from time to time. But the idea of, I've always been averse to the concept of like having a hero or like an idol or a super fan or anything like that. Like sports jerseys, for example. Wearing a sports jersey of a player, to me, is kind of wild because like you're getting someone else's name on your back. Granted, like you might just want to support that person, but it's just like, I don't know, like, do you want to, because people are messy and the way that people are presented, especially in like major league sports, not necessarily true in FG and like esports and the fighting game community specifically, but like what you see is not who they are as a person, like whatsoever. They could have done like very good things, but like I don't know. There's a part of me that's like, people are just complex, and if you want to have an idol, it's more effective and more impactful if that person who you look up to is within your current circle of influence so that they can have a material impact on your life and not just a like, ethereal one of this is my dreams and aspirations, because then it's like, okay, put it this way, of you have this like sports figure being your hero and you train and train and train and you eventually become like to that level, and then you meet that person eventually and it turns out they're like a huge fucking asshole, and it's like, oh well, this does that color your life differently? Like, would you have done the same thing earlier if you had known that they were an asshole the whole time? Like, if you knew that Michael Jordan was like a gambling addicted like motherfucker who like will do any fucking thing to get out on top, like, would you think of him differently, or would you still say, well, he's 6-time champion, you can't fight the man, he's the fucking best at this game, I can't, he was in Space Jam, the motherfucker was in Space Jam. Does that, I don't know, does that matter? I feel like to most people who like in a day-to-day life, that shit, like, I don't know, I feel like that does matter, because the more impactful thing is to have someone who like can actually, you can talk to and help to, and not just this like idol who is this idea of success and not actually success. But I don't know, that is a very unformed thought that like has just been on my mind today specifically.
No, that's okay. Because I mean that's on very lightly touching on it, because I'm not a smart enough person to go over everything and like in well drawn details. But with Kobe Bryant recently passing away, that's everyone knows what happened in 2003, and like it's
yeah, that's another thing. Oh man, like I wanted to bring that up, but kind of didn't, because at the same time I'm like, man, a lot of people died in that airplane, like in that helicopter crash, and it is really sad to see a life pass away so suddenly,
right?
And really unfortunate for all of those threads to be still open. Like there's no opportunity for healing. Like it's so easy to forget about people who have been hurt by people in power. Oh man, we're so easy to forgive people who just say, well, they're bad too. Like, there's no perfect victim. There's never a perfect victim. And looking for requiring a perfect victim it's just like fucking wild to me. I don't know that. I mean, like, condolences is like death is like fucked up, and everyone has to face it at some point and deal with that in their own way, and especially someone as influential as Kobe and as strong as he was in the game. It's just like, I don't know, I can't forget about those things, and wanting there to be some kind of healing in response to the bad things what have been done in the past. Like, we're never gonna get that. No. And especially, man, you're getting me, because like the hashtag that was trending was what was it, girl dad?
Yeah, girl
or
dad.
Dad girl.
Yeah.
Which, like, to me, I'm like, okay. Like, sure, he might have been a great dad. I'm sure he was a fantastic father, but there are other women in his life that maybe didn't get the same treatment. That it's so easy to forget, because it's so easy to want that perfect example of especially in a moment like this, where it is incredibly tragic, and like it is you have all the right to feel sorry and sad for this loss, and it's heartbreaking for that to happen. Like, and at the same time have this other thing to be like, well, also, and then just to like not see like anything about that. And maybe people don't want to face the bad stuff in death, and I get that. And there's a certain people say like respect the dead, but then it's like, well, when is that ever? Like, when is enough time passed to go back on this and revisit this, or because we so easily remember the harmful people throughout history and never know the victims' names.
Yeah. I wish I could tell you the name of the woman who was assaulted in 2003. It is a fault of my own that I don't know her name.
I mean, even like, we know Attila the Hun.
Yeah.
But he committed incredible acts of genocide. Granted, we might know him for being the dude who did a bunch of genocide. Yeah. But at the same time, like, there's a lot of history what he erased that is lost to time, and I don't know. Are we doomed to repeat those things on different scales? Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah,
maybe that's a little bit too dark and too heartfelt to get into on this show.
No, not at all. I've always welcomed discussions like this because I don't get to have these fucking talks all the time. I've got a 17-year-old boy, I've got a 3-year-old girl, and I've got my wife, and like that's who I associate with every day of my life. So I don't get to have these discussions often. So I welcome them early and often, all the time. But the separating the man from the legend from the person is a big thing for a lot of people. The same thing what happened with Bill Cosby, where people say, well, you can't take away the impact that the Cosby Show had on black families and the impact that it had across multiple people and stuff like that. Like, separate that from Bill Cosby, who's a fucking rapist. Like, he deserves to be in prison for the rest of his life. And then there are things like the girl dad hashtag, where the reporter who was like, who told the story, was a very heartfelt story about Kobe being a girl dad. And so, like, it's a lot of people use the hashtag to be like, I'm also a girl dad like Kobe, or like doing these things like Kobe did great things. But at the same, like, other people using that hashtag for their pictures, were also like, I'm raising a little girl, the father of a girl, because I want to show that, like, I'm a strong father for this, who will eventually be a strong woman. And it becomes very messy and very complicated, like you said. And then even within that, like within the dark things, like when you had brought up Michael Jordan. So Michael Jordan, for those that don't know, was a fucking crazy person, a crazily competitive person, where they would play games of spades on like the team plane for tens of thousands of dollars, and if he lost,
crazy gambling addiction. Which actually, that's why he played baseball.
For those that don't know,
people forget about that.
Him and Stern shook hands behind the fucking scenes, and he was like, "Yeah, I'm just gonna go play minor league baseball for 2 years, and you won't tell people that I'm actually suspended for my awful gambling." And then like he fucking punched Steve Kerr in the face during the '96 finals. But all that stuff, like that hyper competitive, like crazy gambling addiction, being a fucking asshole, is now just part of his lore, and like he just wanted it so much, that's why he was who he was, and like it gets weirdly remembered because of that. And like there's just,
I don't know, maybe there's something to say that it's good to remember the good stuff, to reflect on that and hold that close to build your character. But I don't know, getting back to what I was saying though, like there are so many other real people in your real life that you can reach out and touch and see face to face that can have a real impact on your future, like an immediate real impact. That, like, the idea of like fandom and being a hype around someone is like it's kind of wild to me. But that's kind of where I was going with that initial thought.
Yeah.
But
that's spiraled off into the weeds. That's okay.
Yeah, we got into the weeds there a little bit, but that kind of, I think that might bring it back around to the why we were even having that conversation about why Michael Jordan was playing baseball.
Yeah, fucking Michael. Shout out to the Barons for fucking having him for 2 years. Like, fucking congratulations, guys. Jesus Christ. Yeah. Anyways, fighting games are really cool, you guys.
They are. I mean, that kind of goes back to like what I was saying. Of like, I feel like 2020 is going to be the year, and 2021 specifically, of like trying to do mass scale promotion for grassroots events without having the backing of the powers in place that are doing it now for their big, huge events. Like, we just don't have that, and we'll see what the platforms look like for people who are running smaller events. But hopefully, it's better for them in the future, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. The one thing I want to bring up about Street Fighter League, like while we're talking about like these events and stuff really quick, is shout outs to the Ohio squad, who will have their members for their amateur Street Fighter League team, which don't know when that event's happening. Don't know how they've come to the conclusion of like who their team is, but they've put
Yep.
together promotional materials. They've all this stuff that they've done really well for their community. I hope the best for them. I've seen nothing get retweeted by Capcom official. I've seen no mention of it. Like you said, it's so hard to find information on these things. I don't know what we're supposed to do as a community to highlight our players when we don't have the opportunity to highlight these fucking players until like the grandstand moment happens.
Yep.
But I don't know. That's just me griping about things that I have no control over.
No, I'm right there with you. I'm trying to figure out a solution to that problem, and I've tried to do that for years. But like with the I even forget it now. The Fighters Network. The LFN, the local Fighters Network.
Yeah,
where
that,
it
yeah.
was
There
like,
we go. Yes.
here's a space for people to share shit, and then, I mean, that's still up, but it's just not. It didn't take off the way that would make it effective, and maybe there's a like that. We still have that on the back burner. Like the person who was doing a lot of coding for that, he had experienced illness, in a matter of which he was unable to continue work on stuff right away, and he's like just now recovering, so he might get back to that and have like another version of that, like a more official, easier to use version. But we'll see about that.
A lot of things for locals tries to get off the ground, and for whatever reason, the locals don't support it or don't like put a lot of effort into it. I don't know what's happening because of things like the LFN. When James Chen had his program, they had like a huge groundswell, and then I haven't heard much from it. I don't know what it is that like we can do to push these locals out and like push these people out.
Here's the thing though, that I don't think the onus is on those. Like, I don't know if it's on them, because like it is totally fine and valid to just go and enjoy an event and have that be that, and don't think about it until the next week or the next month or however often that shit happens. Like,
right.
That is a valid way to experience your community. You don't need to get in any deeper than that. That could just be it. That's fine. But it's just one of those things where at some point on the scale that we're working at, I mean, you and I see a need for more boots on the ground, digging up the shit kind of stuff. But the sport's just not there. I don't know. It's hard to say it, if anything would cause a groundswell like that. But who can say?
Yeah. Well, I guess I know we have a couple more questions. I know I'm keeping you a little too long, so I'll try to wrap it up so I don't keep you too long away from your wife and Brick.
No, she's not home. I don't expect her to be home until Brick was just barking at, I don't know. There might have been a dog. Might have been dog. He doesn't like fireworks. There might have been fireworks. No, I don't expect Leah to get home until. I mean, last night she got home at like 12:05. So like, it's this week in particular is bad. So I'm like thinking she'll get home at 11. Which we are, for people who are listening to this in post, it's only like 9:40 right now, so I got time.
Yeah,
I have nothing to. I cleaned the house before this, so I'm all set.
Man, I gotta do that after I put the kids to bed. Like
I'm a little dry though right now. I don't have another drink in my hand, which could be a problem.
Oh no! All right. Well, look, I'll try not to keep you away from the drink too long. But if you don't got a bedtime, I guess the one thing I wanted to ask you, but that I'll probably end up tagging along on this. Like, surprise, surprise, everyone! I'm gonna interject myself into someone else's answer. But why Zangief? Why are you drawn to Zangief as the Geef gym mascot? To be your main everything. Why Zangief?
Two reasons. The first is that when you play Zangief, your opponent, most of the time, like, save for certain matchups, your opponent is forced to play their game differently. They have to play on your terms. Granted, Zangief doesn't have great walk speed, but he controls the pace of the match in a different way. There is space that is dangerous for you to enter. Uh, your buttons in the neutral are a risk. Your options on wake up are equally risky. Uh, and there's a certain element to that whenever you can Zangief just so immediately is just in the other person's head. Like that, the effect that Geef can have on a person is so air apparent that that is appealing to me. You have to play him differently, and if you're not playing him differently, then you have fucked up and you're going to lose easily. It'll be an easy match for the Zangief. Or you've adjusted your gameplay, and now it becomes a battle of different kinds of wits, of where you have the advantage, and are you pressing it correctly? Are you backing off when you need to? Those things are what make you special to me. The other answer, the part two of this, the other shoe to drop, is that I don't have a lot of time to play fighting games. Or games in general. I've been working 12-hour shifts. I do all the stuff for, like, I do Geef's Gym stuff. I do sponsorship stuff. Like, all the Street Fighter stuff that is related to what I do for it. That stuff takes up a lot of time out of my day. So I don't really get a whole lot of time to play. And it is my opinion that I don't need the fancy stuff. I don't need to know combo pathings. I don't need to learn. I mean, I could learn all this. Like, there's not really a whole lot of specific Oki situations. Like, I know them because they're like, he doesn't have a whole bunch of them. Like, I know all the specifics of Geef because I can. The information's available. I know it, but it's. I don't want to say basic, but to me, it's very basic. Like, I just have to do these 2 or 3 things as efficiently as I can do them, and I'm good. I can win that way without having much like time to grind. Like, you'll see me in the pre-tournament. Sometimes in the pre-tournament is the first time I've ever played against a certain character, and you'll watch me like in real time be like, I wonder if this works. And sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes I forget shit, and I'm like, oh, well, that doesn't work now. This is what I'll do now, because I know the character, I know the range of things. Like stuff to me, it's like the back of my hand. So doing that stuff that I deem, and this is after like spending a lot of time previously with the character and with like over the years and just knowing how he works, is that just comes naturally to me. I know what to test. It's like getting into an old car and being like, yeah, this handles just the way I like it. And that's kind of what Geef is, you know?
Geef is like an 84 Toyota Celica. He just...
That's Zangief to me, man. I'll tell you what.
Oh, man. No, that's...
He'll get me there.
He's dependable. He'll get you there. You'll never forget how to drive it. Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. Does that translate to other fighting games? I know you haven't gotten the chance to play a lot of other fighting games recently, but I know you got to play a little bit of Samurai Showdown when that launched. Does the grappler mentality go to every fighting game? You're like, I want to be able to pick up a character who has a command grab, whose like game bases around that, who forces other people to play differently.
Let me like kind of clarify that, because it's not even specifically the command grab of Zangief that makes his tools effective. It's that his tools are simple and they allow him to very quickly take a lot of the elements of I don't know, like fancy combos, like all of the fluffy stuff, all the fancy shit. Not exactly all the fancy shit, but like some of the fancy shit. And take that all away, and for me to very quickly start playing not against the character I'm playing against, but the opponent that I'm playing against. He gets me to that point like extremely quickly. Like, I'll know almost immediately if like I have a handle on the character. Great, this is the range they're going to work at. Awesome. now I can play my opponent. I don't, like, I'm playing against a human being, and Geef allows me to do that. Switch over to Samurai Showdown, Haomaru, not a whole, no one really has a whole ton of tools in that game, but, like, his tools, when used, like in the right ranges at the right time, is extremely effective. It's one of those things where whenever I saw in the latest patch for Samurai Showdown, the only thing I saw in that patch was Haomaru walk forward and backward a little bit faster, and in my mind I was already saying Haomaru's top tier. He's top tier. Like, that is the only thing I needed to see to go, he's great. Like, he's maybe not the toppest of tiers, but, like, in my mind, I'm like, that's having that ability to slightly control the neutral a little bit, the range that he's standing in, without having to commit to a dash, is like, oh, now he has more of an ability to play against his opponent and not be restricted by his walk speed. Geef is restricted by his walk speed, but also his normals are fantastic, so that kind of counterbalances that. But, like, now you can start playing your opponent much quicker. And to me, it's like, well, this is great. Like, I could play Haomaru at maybe not a top level, but, like, I understand the character. And that character then allows me to play against my opponent, because if my opponent fucks up and I'm playing Haomaru, I just have to press one button. Like, and then, like, 33% of their health is gone.
And then they die.
With, like, a button press, you see that heavy slash, and it's like, over the fuck you up with that heavy slash, man, and the screen just chonks up, and there's the blood. It's that satisfying moment of, I knew what you wanted to do, and I fucked you up for it. And because I knew what you wanted to do, and there's a part of me that's like, that feels good. That feels super good. And whatever character gets me to that point the fastest, I like that character.
Fair enough. So there's something about, like, the big slashes in that game that aren't like what's his name? Yao, the seven sword motherfucker. So his, like, Yoshitora. So his C button covers a lot of space, and, like, early game was super strong and really, really good, but it doesn't have the same visual effect as, like, Darly Dagger or Haomaru's, like, heavy C button that just, like, looks and feels painful as it comes in. There's something to be said about the gravitas that those moves impact upon people, that, like, it makes you feel like, oh, you fucked up and you're being punished for this, and this is why, and you have to sit here through this 90 seconds of fucking hit stun that happens when you get hit in that game. I
love it.
They're very good buttons in that game. I enjoy it very much. But yeah, no, that's actually not why I thought you would pick Zangief. For someone dumb like me, who's just like, grapplers, big boys, every game, like, no matter what, big boys. With the exception of, like, Darly in Samurai Showdown, and then, like, Armika in Alpha 3. But, like, I don't know, I just assume people who play grapplers across all games. So I was expecting Earthquake to come out of your mouth. So I was ready for it. But no, I just was surprised. Slightly surprised.
Understandable. Like, I get that. And Earthquake, I do like Earthquake, but to me, he's limited. Like, the tools that he has in the neutral limit him to a certain type of play that, in my mind, forces him to play a certain way against characters, whereas with Haomaru, like, he has more of an ability to play his opponent than Earthquake does, I feel.
Okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I think that's why we don't see Earthquake as much at the higher level as we do other characters. Most notably, like, Basara recently, who's fucking taken off, and I don't even want to play against that character anymore. I am fucking tired of Basara. But with that being said, I will do this. For people that are watching, hey, this is a little bit late in the fucking show, but for people that are in the future listening to this, we're live on twitch.tv/SrirachaFlash. If you would like to join us in the future, we generally do these Tuesdays and Thursdays at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So if you'd like to join in the conversation, chat with my guests, chat with whoever's here, please feel free to join us around those times. Like I said, Tuesday and Thursday, 8 p.m. Eastern. So with that being said, I will throw it to the chat. I know there's a couple guys in here, Rock Dan, Dadman, and a couple others, who might have some questions for you, Joe. So if you guys would have any questions for Joe, please feel free to throw them up now while I ask Joe these last couple questions here. But if I'm being honest, it's not really a question. Joe,
Let me just make this statement at you.
Let me make this statement. It's not a question. This is an open platform for you to talk about anything that's on your mind, anything you want to get off your chest. I know you have a platform where you get to do this already, but now it's my show, and I am giving you the soapbox to stand on. So please, anything that you'd like to talk about, go ahead.
I mean, honestly, it's tough for me to not want to spend this time to say that people should check out other people's shit, because I'm bad at self-promotion. But with that said, I don't know. I guess the thing that's really now I'm arguing with myself in my own head. I'm like, you promote the good shit. Let people know that they should go to like Hold Back the Block or like Pat the Flip and support these like true FGC efforts and like follow all these good people and make sure that people who are working for the community get promoted the most, and just like put them forward, like community forward people, put them forward and put them in shed a little bit of light on them, because their fucking work. There's a lot of people doing a lot of fucking work out there that is completely honorable and like Sermi, for example. A lot of people don't know who Sermi is, but works for Maturino and has been a key element in the success of the R Street Fighter player sponsorships in the last year or so. So like just doing like shit like that's like a lot of work, and that's a name you've probably never heard of. And there's so many people like that. Just like, I don't know, make sure that you appreciate the people who are doing work. However, there is something on my mind that I kind of want to go back to and touch upon, just something to think about, and something that I think about from time to time, which is having people in your life that, I guess not like heroes, but like, what's the word I'm looking for? Like having a role model in your life. I was fortunate enough to have a role model outside of my own father, who's like Dean's the fucking man. I love Dean. He's fantastic. But I've had other like role models in my life who've like taught me, like I had a guy go out of his way to help teach me like economics, and like here's how like financing like housing goes, and like here's how you can like think about like land ownership and shit like that. And this is like this incredible dude who like taught me so much about like the world and finance and the way that like business and the business of people works. And I am so grateful to have had that person in my life, and he invested so much in me that I always feel that it's necessary for me, because I've been given such great opportunities in life, to then shed that same love on other people who might not be as fortunate to have that person directly in their life. So that's just one of the reasons why I try to have those doors open all the time to, like, if you have like any questions, I try to make myself as available as possible and try to devote as much energy, time, money to people who need it, or people who are hungry and want it, you know? And at the same time, though, I would be remiss if I didn't say that that guy who like invested a whole lot on me, in me, fuck that guy forever. I fucking hate his guts. He's a piece of trash, and I fucking hate him. And there's nothing in my mind that can separate him from that. I think he's a piece of shit. He's a piece of shit garbage. Fuck him forever. But also, I'm so grateful for everything that he did for me. It's really strange. It's really strange that there's like that is how that one panned out. I will not get into the specifics on this show. They're a little too close to home. But at the same time, like, I don't know, like fuck that guy. But at the same time, I'm like hyper grateful that I was able to have someone like that in my life, and therefore, because I had been given so many opportunities and so many like little bits of knowledge and so much invested in me that given any opportunity to put any of that love back into the world, I'm going to take that. So again, this kind of goes out to everybody, but like if there's like if you want opportunity, if you think that I don't know, I'm always in the position of I want to be helpful to people and help others rise up, as it were. Also, fuck that guy.
Yeah, agreed.
Fuck,
Fuck that
fuck
guy.
you, Dave. You motherfucker, Dave.
Fucking, it's always fucking Dave. I swear to God,
It
it's
was
always
a Dave, yeah. Well, he went by David, so extra fuck that
Oh,
guy.
what a fucking asshole. Oh, it's always like Joshua. What a fucking asshole these Davids and Joshuas are, I tell you. I fucking, fuck you, Dave. And listen, it's always a fucking Dave. We had to fire a guy at my work named Dave who was a fucking asshole, too. That's separate from this conversation. But yeah, no, I think what you say has a lot of merit, and I think it's very important to do that. Without trying to step on your point too much, and I'll keep it brief, but I separated myself from my mother, who had done a lot of good things for me. And I've been open about this in the past. She stole my identity. She put a bunch of bills in my name and ruined my credit score for a long time, and did it with all my brothers and sisters. And I didn't realize it until later in my life when I tried to buy a house for the first time. And I had to sit there and go,
Oh,
your
no.
credit score is nothing. And I think it's important for people to go, like, if there are ties, be they familial or friendly or anything else, understand that your self-worth and the importance in your life, it's okay to separate those things and go, I don't need this person in my life anymore. What they've done is terrible, and the amount of good things that they've done do not overshadow the awful and terrible things that they can and will do or have done. So I wholly agree with you there. It's weird to have those people around and go, I'm happy for what they taught me, but also fucking no, like there's a cutoff point where you can't redeem those people anymore. So yeah, I'm with you. Fucking Dave, I swear to God, it's always a Dave. But no, that's good food for thought, and it's a good, I think, mental exercise to run through and categorize the people in your life who are like that, and take mental note of the people around you who are like that. But yeah, that's a conversation I think for a smarter person than I, unfortunately. Yeah.
Unfortunately.
I mean, I wish I could add on to it. I wish I could say, yeah.
No, there really isn't like a whole lot there to it. Just that, like, I don't know, like, I guess the end of it is just that if you have the ability to invest yourself in other people, the reward for doing so is so great. Like seeing other people succeed and do well, that to me that's the reward. That's like the tangible thing that because this shit ain't about money. It's never been about money. It's never going to be about money. At least not in my lifetime.
Mm-hmm.
So seeing people get such value outside of monetary value, like life lessons learned, and like just I don't know, like I'm not going to name names, but like through the RSF sponsorship thing, I had to talk to someone directly to be like, here's how you build a credit score. Here's how like you build a line of credit. You probably want to start doing this early. Here's some safe ways to do it. Like, and had to explain to someone how to build a line of credit. And like, I don't know. There's a part of me that's like, I'm really glad that I was in a position to help that person, and I hope they have a good credit score now, or like I really hope they've started building credit now. Honestly, because if they haven't, they're fucking up. But I don't know. If you are in a position to be a mentor to someone, please take that opportunity.
Yeah, it helps out more than you know. But look, I will lighten it up, and I'll throw you the softball question first, because Admiral Nemo comes in with the hard hitting ones. Admiral Nemo would like to know, Joe, why are you so gosh dang cool? Look at that. Look at that hard turn.
Former President Barack Obama asked me the same question, and I didn't have an answer for him. It was really weird. Personal friend Barack Obama asked me the same question. I just didn't have an answer for him. And then we high-fived and dunked a basketball, and then, roll credits. The answer is that... fuck. I've got to answer this seriously.
No.
The answer is that I just don't give a fuck. I don't give a fuck. The only fuck I care about is if people are being hurt. It's the only fuck I care about. If people are being hurt, then I've got a lot of fucks for you. But there's so much that I see people worry about and so much to get hung up on, where if you just kind of like think in your head what the best version of yourself can be, as long as that version isn't actively hurting or hindering the progress of another human being or like the rest of humanity or innocent doggies and kitties, or anything, if it's not harmful in any way, just fucking do it. Like, just there's really nothing stopping you from being as weird as you want to be, and at some point, if you're worried about like, oh, I gotta be cool, I won't get a spouse or a life partner to be cool. Like, I gotta be cool to get one of those. Like, motherfucker, no, you don't. Like, you can be really fucking weird, and that shit works out for some reason. I tell a story now.
All right, tell a story
about how I met my wife. I like to be, and you can do this too. Anyone out there, you can be as impulsive as you want to be, so long as it's not hurting people. But the first time that I met my wife, this was in college. This was my sophomore year. I was meeting up with a bunch of friends from freshman year in the cafeteria. We were all kind of just finding a table, sitting down. Not everybody was back at the table yet, and this girl comes over, and she sits down in my friend Tim's seat, and she's talking to Steve, another friend of mine, because she knew him from like high school or some bullshit, and I see an opportunity to, like, I'm thinking in my mind, I'm never going to see this person ever again. Prime opportunity to just be whatever. I can be whatever to this person. It doesn't matter. I'm never going to see him again. So I was like, excuse me, miss. Oh, God, miss. I feel awkward saying it's miss. But that is Tim's seat, and he is going to be so furious if he cannot sit down and immediately enjoy his grilled cheese sandwiches. You are in his seat. Tim is going to be so mad. Miss, please, miss. Tim, I cannot protect you if Tim comes here. Miss, I beg of you, please, miss. And like, she was totally blocking me out and being like, this is the worst thing. Like, this person's so fucking annoying. Who is this human being? This trash human. 2 days later, I get in the elevator from where my dorm was, and door opens. There's a girl, and she looks at me, because it's just going to be me and her in the elevator, and she does like a big dumb like wave, like, hi, just me and you, like, because you're just standing right in the center of the elevator. So I kind of wave and smile, and I'm like, wait a minute, because I'm looking at her, I'm like, hold on, do I know, have we met before? Because it hadn't registered for either of us yet. And then I see I see everything, like, it is coming around in her brain. She is recognizing me now, and she goes, oh, you're that asshole. This is going to be these 8 floors that we have to go down are gonna be so awkward. And I'm standing like, oh, fuck, I'm now seeing this person I never expected to see in my whole life. This is awkward. I am paying a solid price now. This is an awkward elevator ride. Doors open. We go our separate ways. I'm like, see you never again. Sorry. Oh, gosh, I'm sorry. It was like an apology tour as we went our separate ways. Later that day, Same day. I go into a 7-Eleven to get some energy bars. Who's there? Same girl as before. And I go, okay, here's my opportunity to create fun small talk to prove to this person that I am not always an asshole. So I strike up some really dumb conversation about some like Nutri-Grain bars. She's like, yeah, sure, those are cool, whatever. Like, really awkward seeing you again today for a second time. This is fucking weird. Like, see you never again. In my mind, I'm like, okay, now if I never see this person ever again, I have righted the wrongs. We've had pleasantries. We've had human-to-human pleasantries that don't necessarily make up for the original assholeness, but it's just in the right direction. I'm putting more positivity out in the world than I put negativity. Same day, after midnight, I'm coming home from the library. I'm turning the corner in the lobby of the dorm, and who do I see out of the corner of my eye? Something flashes, and I think to myself, no, it cannot be. So I keep walking, and I think to myself, I need to turn around just to make sure. I turn full 360, 1080 degrees, and who is it? Same girl as before. So I walk right up to her, and I ask, because I'm going to see you all the time now, can I just get your number so this isn't weird? And that's how I met my wife.
Holy shit.
Apparently, what I had done at that point, she was surrounded by a group of other dudes who were talking to her, and apparently what I did was very brave, but I didn't see the danger. I was too focused. But yeah, and then apparently that was a grand gesture. That it's not really a grand gesture. It's just like I was living the way that, it was just in the moment. Just live in the moment and say the shit that's come to your mind, as long as it isn't hurtful to other people. Or maybe serendipitously you get 3 opportunities to right that wrong, and then you end up marrying the person. I don't know. That could be your life too. I can't say, but that's why I'm so cool.
Oh, that's way better than mine. Like, I met my wife in a video store. At the end. Like, I was working at Family Video, and she was checking out games for her kid at the time, and then lo and behold, now we're here, and now we're married, and we have another one. And fucking the end. I wish I could have the story of coincidence and confidence that you have, but I was just.
Here's the thing, though, is that your child isn't going to know what you're talking about.
Yeah, oh no. Never.
Video store?
Never, ever.
Excuse me, is that
Yeah,
you met her on the Netflix app?
Yeah, that's exactly what happened, actually. She was actually the mail person that brought me my Netflix VHS.
Wait a minute, they bring things to the door? It's not...
Oh, okay, yeah, so in the before times... It's not on
the tablet?
Yeah, in the before times, before they used to just digitally beam these videos straight into your iPad, someone would have to bring you these videos. It's very complicated. And then you'd only have them for 2 weeks, and you have to return them. And then those companies split, and now you can still get those physically, but not really. They might as well be dead because no one uses them. Total different things, kid. Different things.
Weird story about that, though. Quick aside about Netflix, and they still do, you can still order just the DVDs, but they're phasing that out. I think it's going to end in 2021. And initially when I heard that, I was like, who the fuck does that? But then I realized that due to licensing agreements, it actually makes, they are limited in what they are able to stream on streaming services, but they aren't as limited in terms of what they can rent out through the DVD service. So they actually have a whole stockpile of kind of hard stuff to find, because no one is streaming this stuff because the licensing deals are difficult to do, because there's music things tied up with them, and royalties that are kind of fucked up with how things are in that particular business. So there is still value in art. There is still value in media. There's still value in physical media. I'm gonna die in this bunker. There's still value in physical media.
There is. That's how I saw Sleepaway Camp for the first time. The 1984 fucking Sleepaway Camp was from Netflix VHS that I could not find anywhere, but Netflix fucking VHS had it, and that's how I saw it. Or not Netflix DVD, because at that point they were done with the VHSs. So they were doing VHSs in '99 and shit like that, and my parents had it in 03, 04, when it wasn't Netflix, it was something else. but like they were subscribed to the service, and so that's how I saw Sleepaway Camp for the first time. So like, and I had to buy that DVD because the only other version that exists that you can really find anywhere is like on YouTube, but it's like the shitty YouTube cut of it, and like it's not the best quality. I mean, even on VHS and DVD, it's not the greatest quality, but like everyone go watch Sleepaway Camp. Sleepaway Camp is good. I enjoyed that. Like that's a fucking horror movie that doesn't get talked about enough.
So you remember when Netflix tried to call themselves Quickster?
Oh my fucking Christ! What in...
I had like erased that from my brain, and then it's like, this huge company that owns like a whole lot of shit and rights and bullshit. You wanted to call themselves Quickster. Idiots.
The best part about it was like it wasn't. It was definitely like 90s spelling. Where it was like QWIK.
Yeah, it was bad. It was not good, and it was like in that orange word art font. It's just like, this is no good, fam. Put that away.
God in heaven, that fucking Quickster was the Shockmaster of Netflix DVDs.
Oh, I fucking love the Shockmaster. Okay.
All right, I think with that, I think it's about time we end the show. I know other people have questions in chat. But I don't want to keep you for too long.
I mean, is there any like quick questions to go into? I've got time. Unless you're like, hey, a 2.5 hour episode is too long. We can't. No one's gonna listen to this show.
Listen, my wife is at work, and I've got my oldest kid watching the youngest kid. It's fine. Really quick, Dadman wants to know. He just started getting involved in the San Antonio FGC and wants to help out. I've already started on a power rating system for a local event. What's a good next step I can use to help and beef up the community?
Oh, shit, that's cool. That is a good way to do it. The other good way is just to, like, ask to the people who are in charge. Be like, how can I... And just ask someone directly, what things need to be done that aren't being done now can you delegate to me? Like, what can I do? I think that's always that for the longest time, that's been my advice to people who are, especially through like the Street Fighter V era, where there was a lot of like Street Fighter 4 heads who were like, I don't really like this game, but I really like my community. What do I do? My answer to them was, you either love your community and you dig deeper, or it's okay to walk, because you can invest yourself in the people, and eventually that will matter more. So getting invested in the people within your own community will help you dig in more, and you'll kind of find your own path. Like, I'm not going to tell you to do your... I don't want to tell you specifics of things what you should do. It is one of those things where it's going to be specific for you. However, with that said, like, if you ever need the R Street Fighter account to, like, promote stuff or post stuff on R Street Fighter, like, go to the R Street Fighter School of Business. There are opportunities there. I've done, like, write-ups and things, like, if you want to build a pitch deck and bring in money to your community, like, I write out how you can do that and give templates for you to use. It's free to use for everybody. It's on the R Street Fighter wiki under the R Street Fighter School of Business. There's stuff that you can do if that's what you're interested in. But also, you have to ask yourself what you're interested in doing. Like, follow your bliss, I suppose.
Yeah, there's not really a specific direction you can give except for involve yourself in the community and find out what it, like you said, what's missing, what can be added, and really come up with, don't try to do it yourself. Come up with a plan with your community members to push something forward, because you by yourself doing something, if no one else knows it's happening or understands, it's not going to help anything.
Or just ask, like, what stats, ask the person who runs your event, what stats are helpful to you? What would be useful for you to know? And like, if stats are your thing, just like, then keep track of that. Or, I don't know, some shit like that. If you want to, like you say, you're already running like spreadsheets and shit, like, I don't know if like making visual representations of that stuff could be useful. Like, do you stream your event? Because then that information being shown on stream would be like super rad. I mean, I'm just like spitballing. I don't know if that's practical to your event or location, but just like I said, you'll know with the people if you you dig those roots in.
Yeah, that's quick, succinct, and I will find the R Street Fighter School of Business template, and I'll put it in the fucking show description for you lazy people that don't want to go digging for it. If you're listening to this episode, that being said, Rockdan would like to know, Mr. Joe Monday, do you have any hobbies or passions outside of fighting games that you want to touch on that might not get a lot of love? Like Mike Too Strong recently investigating Gunpla.
Oh man, I honestly, because I used to do Gunpla like long time ago, and when I went to Japan, visited the Gundam. What the fuck do they call it? Where they have all the Gunpla, the base, the Gundam base or whatever the fuck. And that shit was dope as hell. I love making Gunpla. I haven't done any like in a very long time, but seeing Mike get into that and having just recently visited that mobile base was like, man, this is. I'm thinking about it. I'm not doing it, but I'm thinking about it. Uh, what I love to do, my passion, is making pizza. Uh, it is something that I am good at, and something that when I have people over, it is a way for me to like express like, "Hey, I love you. Here's pizza. Uh, enjoy this. It's delicious. Put my hot triangles in your mouth. You'll love it." Uh, and I really like doing that. Like I've got this like knack for making za that like it's real good. And another thing, I really like physical therapy and like massage therapy. Like I'm into that because it's like this other element of like healing that I feel like is a way to connect with someone in a way that is not exactly intimate, but more. It's it's more like one on one. Like I have like very close friends that it is not. Let's put it this way: it is not unlike my character to be like drunk at a party with my very good friends, and then just like start giving like a really good shoulder rub, and then they're like, "Oh, wait a minute, this is extremely good." And I'm like, "Yeah, Zach, and this like, yeah, you're like super tight up here. Let me just like this muscle right here. Maybe you should. This is how your posture is. You should probably change this. Like loosen up, you dummy. Like, and give like advice like that, and just like, I don't know. I like that because it's just another way to show love from my friends.
Pizza and massages. I really want to party with Joe Monday. I'm throwing that out there right now. I'm very
I am
very jealous.
I've been told I'm a lovable drunk.
Ah, that's better than obscene drunk like me. So I guess I don't know. We'll see how the waters mix in the future.
I'd give you an incredible. Here's the thing: I start giving you a credible massage. You've got my hot triangles in your mouth. It's all love all the time, baby. There's no. You can't get angry. There's no aggression there.
Oh no! I listen. If anything, I'm never an angry drunk. Never ever an angry drunk. I'm like, but in the wee hours when it's like 3 o'clock and I'm coming down from the drunk and I'm still awake and now I'm at my house and I'm really sad. I get like the depressed drunk because I'm by myself. But in a party setting, I feel like I do pretty well. All right, so now I have to ask. First of all, love pizza. I know you've posted like the pizzas that you made on Twitter sometimes. What are the optimal pizza toppings?
With pizza toppings, I am very much under the school of thought of whatever you're feeling at the time, you make it your way. But there are key elements to a pizza that I feel like at least when I make a pizza, I must include on every pizza. Or at least there's like two ways to make it. So if you're gonna go sauce topping, you got to make the sauce like yourself. Like just get some tomatoes, dice them up, put them on the little pot there, get them going, reduce them down, put a little oil in there, get some pepper, salt, oregano, basil, little bit of onion, a little bit of garlic, and just like make that yourself. And once you like make your own sauce, once you start with like a good base, but you don't have to use tomato sauce. Guess what? Get a little bit of butter, put a little garlic in that butter, heat that shit up. Butter base, my friend. That's like a good solid alternative to a. If you're doing butter base, you gotta like really butter it up.
Yeah.
But regardless, 100% what I'm gonna do on a pizza, I'm gonna do this little touch. This is a little Joe Monday specialty. Toppings, whatever you want, whatever cheeses you want to go with. Like live your best life. You want to put a little ricotta on there? I'm for it. Go for it. That is like an underrated pizza topping that I think more people should get into because it's just more cheese, but it's soft. It's gonna be soft.
So good.
But here's the Joe Monday pro tip to making pizza. Regardless of whatever pizza you're making, heat up a little butter, put a little bit of like one or two cloves of garlic in there, diced up or minced. If you have a garlic press, get one. Heat up the butter. Got the garlic in there. Have that sit for a little bit as you're like rolling your dough, and like do that first so the butter is like infused, right? When you go to lay out your pizza, before you put the sauce on or anything in the center, get a spoon and around the edge of the pizza, around the crust, put that garlic butter all around the crust. Now you've got like garlic butter crust, which is pretty good to start with. That's a good start, but the topper, here's the kicker. Get some kosher salt. Take that kosher salt, sprinkle that kosher salt all around that butter. Now you've got like salty, buttery, garlicky bread around the edge. Oh my gosh, that is just, if you're not a crust person, you will be.
Oh my God in heaven. I'm in.
That's the tech.
That's
the Joe Monday tech. If you're looking for a special pizza tech, that's the tech.
I was like, I'm going to ask this basic question, and then you answered it like way better than I could have imagined. Like the actual making the pizza tech, which I'm a big fan of because I do almost all the cooking in the house because I love to cook. So like I make my own spaghetti sauce, my own vodka sauce when we do pastas and stuff like that.
Ooh, nice.
And it's super. But all right, fucking, I learned this. I can't remember her name now. She's a wonderful Italian woman. She's like the fuck. Who was that really high-pitched lady who did, like, cooking in America and, like, in Britain? What's her name?
Mary Berry?
Not Mary Berry. She's, like, has, like,
I love Mary Berry. She's the best.
Mary Berry is also very good. But anyway, there's this Italian chef, and she's very, very good. And she had this quote where she's like, Americans fuck up pasta sauce all the time by trying to do too much and trying to make something that it's not. Pasta sauce is very, very easy. What you do is you take 2 cans of whole peeled tomatoes, you put them in a pot, you put in 1 stick of butter, you cut an onion in half, and you put the onion inside the pot. And then you simmer it for 45 minutes with like enough salt over the top so that way it's just like a little bit salty. And then it reduces down and you mash the tomatoes, and that's spaghetti sauce. You can make the whole thing for like $2. It is.
Oh yeah, that's effectively how I make my pizza sauce. That is like the same. You have to get that salt in there too because that draws out the water from the tomatoes, so then it gets to that reduction state faster.
Yes, and it is so fucking good and so simple. It is incredible. I don't think we've bought like spaghetti sauce in the house for years now, because I just learned to make it on my own, and it's way better. So I'm gonna put the Joe Monday pizza tech to work this weekend. I think probably for the Super Bowl, or the big game. I don't know if I can say fucking Super Bowl, NFL on my ass. So for me, I'm just gonna throw this out there for any of y'all that want to try the Sriracha Flash special pizza. If you're just ordering from a place and you're like, this place does good pizza, you go pepperoni, banana peppers, jalapenos, sausage, mushroom. Did I go jalapenos already? Fuck. Green pepper.
Yes, you did.
Green pepper. There we go. And then green pepper on there. Those are the 6.
That's solid. Solid.
The bite of the banana peppers that you get in there, or the mild peppers, depending on where you order from, or pepperoncinis. Pepperoncinis are fucking another level of
absolutely
of very, very good peppers on pizza. Very underrated.
I'm down with that. The only thing I don't get down with many jalapenos because they're not a consistent level of spiciness.
Yes. You get some places that pickle them, some that are fresh, and even amongst those, they're not consistent.
It's a really inconsistent pepper, which I'm always weary on using it because I never know exactly what level I'm like. Obviously you have to taste it before you put it in, but it's just like one of those things when you're ordering it. It's like I don't know what this will be. I don't know if it'll be too overpowering or what level it'll be. But if you know the place and you know what they're going for,
yeah,
you can trust it. But that's my jalapeno take.
Yeah, no, that's perfectly fine. I actually go if I'm making it myself. I use serrano peppers a lot more than I use jalapeno peppers.
That's a more consistent pepper, so like you're good to go on that one.
Yeah,
because I've had jalapenos like not spicy at all. I'm like, man, fuck this. Like,
yeah,
there's nothing here.
Yeah, it's just a green pepper that's fucking masquerading as jalapeno. A fucking lie.
Fucking liars.
Goddamn peppers. Last question, then we will get out of here. Very important: Chicago style, or do you stick to traditional crust for your pizza?
I only stick to traditional crust for now, only because, and I don't know why I haven't done this yet, I only have the pan for traditional crust. I don't have a deep dish pan, which I should invest in. Which, by the way, folks, at home, here's another hot tip. Buy a cast iron pan, pizza pan. You can get one on Amazon for probably $12. And use it. Do not wash it with soap. Just continue to use that same pan. Just hot water. Wipe it down after you use it. Because the key to that is that with every pizza that you make, leaves a little bit of a pizza ghost that you'll taste in the next pizza. And you've got a little history of pizza ghosts in your mouth.
Oh, the history of pizza ghosts, I think, is the title of this episode. I think that's how I'm going to start this fucking episode. You've got a history of pizza ghosts. That's
you got little pizza ghosts in your mouth.
That's beautiful.
Right.
Everyone buy a cast iron pizza pan and buy a fucking cast iron skillet. So that way you can grill steaks inside in the wintertime when it's fucking cold like it is now. Oh my god.
Yep. Cast iron, man. They're cheap to buy, and it is a investment that will last you a lifetime if you use it properly.
Yeah, very, very easily. But mind you, when you make steaks in your house in a cast iron pan, your house is gonna disconnect the smoke alarms. You're gonna need to, because shit's gonna get weird in here. Your eyes are gonna water. But fucking do it. Invest in cast iron. All right. With that being said, Mr. Joe Munday, if people want to find you on the internet, where can they find you?
At Super Joe Monday on Twitter.com or at Reddit SF, or just hop on our Street Fighter and post whatever. Here's the other weird thing is that people feel bad about promoting their own stuff on our Street Fighter, and they're like, hey, Joe, can I self-promote on our Street? I'm like, fuck yes, please do. We need more promotion and more upvotes for that promotion and stuff. I didn't touch on this earlier, but here's the thing you can do with your community. Tell them to post stuff on our Street Fighter and then get all those people to upvote that shit. Get that shit more visibility. I don't give a fuck. Manipulate that vote, baby. I'm the mod there. I don't give a fuck. But yeah, that's where you can find me helping promote stuff on our Street Fighter. But that's about it.
Perfect. Yeah, there's no shame in fucking trying to get people to support your content. It's okay to ask for help to support your own shit. If you want to find me on the internet, you can find me on Twitch, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Pornhub, all that fun stuff, at Sriracha Flash. That started as a joke, on Pornhub, but sometimes I want to post these episodes on Pornhub just to be we're also there. Because fucking viewership. If you want to find all the previous episodes of this show, go to srirachaflash.com for everything. We will have this episode updated on there tomorrow, but this will be on Spotify, iTunes, all that other fun stuff, probably in the morning. But by the time you're listening to this, it's probably already in the past. With that being said, thank you all for hanging out. Thank you for listening. I've been Sriracha Flash. This has been Super Joe Monday. We are going to, because this is a Twitch show, go raid Shaper of Stories and tell him have a happy day. But thank you all for listening and have a wonderful night. Good night.